Good now?
Yep.
All right, cool. I want to call the order, the May Victorian Village, I should say May 2023 Victorian Village Commission. Our next business meeting will be Wednesday, May 31st, 2023 at 12 noon at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204, which is this room. Our next hearing date will be Wednesday, June 14th, 2023 at 4 p.m., 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204 still. Want to swear in staff? Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, and I'm Kimberly Bernarci.
Thank you, Kimberly. All right, introduction of commissioners present. Jeff, if you want to kind of kick us off.
Jeff Gibson,
Pete Schuler,
Belinda Shaw.
Reed Sprite.
Tim Skinner.
Chad Conyers. All right, and then do you want to do any overview of the format? Since
For sake of time, I'm gonna skip that.
you got it. So just gonna go ahead and public forum.
Yeah.
And since we're
So we have two public forums today. First one being the Zone N update presented by Mark Trevellis.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mark Trevellis, the Planning Division Administrator, and I'll have a few minutes to give you an update on the city's effort to update the zoning code. And I'll just read through my speaking points, but please jump in at any point. And thanks as always for serving as commissioners. We appreciate it. I don't need to tell you all that the city is growing like gangbusters and is going to continue to do so. The city has a few different efforts underway in order to help address this growth, including a housing strategy, Link Us, sustainability planning, and the subject today is to update the zoning code, which we're calling Zone N. The zoning code hasn't been comprehensively updated in 70 years, so we're overdue. There was a 2021 assessment, as you may know, of the zoning code that confirmed that it is not supporting our community's aspiration to be an equitable, thriving city. It's not doing what we needed to do considering the times and the growth that we're experiencing. And that Mayor Ginther and the City Council have consistently affirmed their support that this is a priority to do this work. So it's underway now. One of the key questions that really needed to be tackled early on was where to start. It's a large city. It's a very complicated project. And where the city is starting is on its primary corridors. That was analysis that was done. And staff and consultant team went through a process to identify in the end what are 62 corridors and some commercial centers that we more or less see as Columbus's main streets. And those areas are shown in a map in the report that you see and on the project website that Hunter's calling up now. And for those in the audience that I gave you a postcard, or if you don't have one, I could hand one out. There's a QR code and you could get to the website and see this interactive map. So the priority areas are there in their map. And it was really data, policy, and public input that really directed the city to determine that these are the best places to start. They have the greatest development capacity to accommodate future growth in an equitable way that is served by transit, supports retail, and so forth. And you all know that. You've been experiencing it and guiding it on High Street for the last decades. The current zoning code, to put a point on it, is really restricting our community's potential. While the corridors are critical to supporting the equitable growth that we need, if you look at the 62 areas, which are about 145 miles, 80% of those parcels have a 35-foot height limit. So, which is of course the same as a single family home. They don't really allow for any flexibility and growth. 80% of those areas also either don't allow housing on the ground floor or don't allow housing at all. So while they offer this great opportunity to accommodate growth, the code doesn't allow for it. So these are two particular points that point to the fact that the zoning code isn't serving us again, and in particular in allowing for the creation of the housing that we need. The way that staff and consultant team came to these areas was identifying existing zoning, commercial overlays, plan recommendations, current code of bus routes, planned link us bus routes, and other site-specific conditions. And that was really the process that has been gone through over the last several months in order to get to this point. And then really the most important points that we're making here in these briefings is inviting and really asking folks to engage. And we're going to all area commissions in the city and boards, commissions, and panels. And I think it's safe to say that you all and our other architectural review commissions and design review commissions are as suited as anybody to do this engagement. We need you to be involved and to invite your neighbors and other parties that you're aware of to plug in. There's a number of ways to do that. One is, if you haven't already, to sign up to receive email updates. The easiest way to find the site is to Google Zone in Columbus, and that'll get you there. The site itself is columbus.gov/zoning code update. So you could sign up for email notification. There's email there to provide specific input, whatever it is, passing thought that you may have, it's all getting cataloged. And now as we talk, and if I ask you questions, we're compiling all this input and creating this database. And we need it to be ongoing then. And you might want to have a specific conversation with Kevin Wheeler, who is the project manager on all of this, or as community meetings happen. So tonight we are going to Whetstone Recreation Center in Clintonville. I believe it's June 6th. Maybe Hunter, if you could go to the events, I think it's under how to engage there. So this is here, then we could see the upcoming meetings. There's been one at Reeb. Tonight we're at Whetstone. You can see City of Grace Church next week. Schiller is on June 1st, might be the next closest to you all. There'll be a virtual on June 8th. And there's a webinar that's posted on the site now, if you haven't seen it, that Kevin Wheeler gave, and it actually gets into a lot of details and so forth. So these are opportunities. That's the briefing, hoping that you'll plug in and stay involved as we go through this process. Happy to answer any questions that you might have now.
What was some of the feedback you got from the initial meetings?
Well, we're in them now, and I think you all are the fourth of the historic district commissions that I've gone to, and so it's things that you would expect. How is this going to jive with existing commissions? How might a new code deal with preservation matters and design guidelines that you all use? And I really don't have answers for those questions. We're going, but that's what we're hearing. Last night at the Southwest Area Commission, what I hear is, why aren't you showing more of our area as a priority area? We need this. We hear that. And then we hear, the contrary. There's questions about parking. People have concerns about height, building heights, and the interface between residential and commercial areas. So it's really a lot of the matters that you all have been dealing with for years, and people have both enthusiasm at the prospect of development and how a new zoning code might facilitate it, and fear. So I really would summarize it as saying it's a lot of the matters that you all deal with on a regular basis is kind of the reaction we hear.
And then the last question I have do commissioners have any seat at this table? Or is there a representation of us? Not us particularly, but commissioners in general?
There is a advisory committee that is and that is being used as sort of bouncing things off of, and I'm not sure if there's anybody from any of the commissioners that are on it. I could tell you off the top of my head, David Tarrow, who is a Clintonville Area Commission chair and designer and architect. Schooley Caldwell as a member. So, that he has a hat, if you will, that I think is, probably represents a lot of the perspective that we would hear from commissioners. but we're engaging the entire community now. So, moving forward, this is the time. If it's formal or informal, we're looking for you all to get involved.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for the time. And as I said, Clintonville, 6 o'clock. So if you wrap it up and I'll see you there. How about that? That's my joke. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all. See you later.
Good luck.
All right, our second item of public forum is the out-of-the-box installation presented by the Short North Alliance.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I don't think I have to swear in.
No.
Okay, sorry. I'm Caitlin Dunn. I'm from the Short North Alliance. This is just a courtesy application. Kimberly told me to be brief, so I'll be super brief. We are wrapping the electrical boxes on the Victorian Village side of High Street with vinyl, similar to what you see on Parsons and in the University District. So far, we have selected 14 artists. We will match them up with a specific electrical box, have them designed for that. And then our Short North Public Art Committee will review those proposals. And then we hope to install later in the summer after the Columbus Art Commission approves as well.
Great. Excited.
Easy.
How do they go about aligning what box goes with which artwork? Here's my take on it. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think art, it's great exposure, but it's almost, you want those things to go away, not become something bigger and greater than they already are.
So to answer your first question, we looked at the application. So we put out an RFQ for artists. We got about 75 artists amongst 5 different calls we were doing. Many for the out of the box project. We looked at what they've done in the past and kind of matched it. For example, we are doing, this isn't in your realm, but we are wrapping a box in Goodale Park. So we selected an artist that does more kind of parkscapes, if you will, and kind of matched it there. To answer your next question, I completely hear you. Unfortunately, they become places for graffiti and posters and stickers anyway. And Parsons and University District has found that this is a good deterrent. So people stop graffitiing and putting stickers up if the vinyl is there. It's also extremely easy to remove that graffiti from that vinyl wrap.
But
Is that something that, if this is successful, would that maybe start to blend or bleed into some of the more residential areas with some of the improvements that have happened? Like for instance, along Mill Avenue, I think there's, several that have been introduced as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't speak for the city, but they've been super receptive to this project in general, wrapping certain electrical boxes. Some are off limits because of how they access them or what they do. But these specifically are what they've given the AOK on. There's a smaller version too in the University District that they've given the AOK on. But I think if there was funding to support a wrap of an electrical box, the city would be at the table too.
Commissioner series. Let's get a box, let's decorate it.
Yeah, and if you are interested in that, you can email info@shortroad.org and we can connect you to a box and
Picture me.
yeah,
I blog, so.
that's all I got though.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
That's exactly right profile. All right, so we're shifting now.
Yes.
It's like a different rhythm, so if interesting, that's great.
Throwing you off to.
So approval of the staff approves. So, is there a motion by any chance?
Motion to approve staff approvals.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Bye.
Any opposed? Oh, all right, so any abstentions, so I'll let you do
This
it.
starts on page 7, and everybody wants, or anybody wants to follow along. So we start off with 781 Park Street, 773 Denison Avenue, 1132 Highland Street, and 115 to 119 West Second Avenue. And that's all the staff approvals for this one.
So approval of the minutes from last month, so which was the April 17th, 2023 meeting.
Motion to approve April minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on them at all? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, and then we will dive into the application, starting with number 1, which is 365 West Hubbard Avenue. This application is to close in the existing door and replace it with a new Marvin Ultimate wood window with transom and install a new limestone sill and brick the infill beneath window, cut a new hole in the historic addition to install the salvage door and transom with a new 1.6 cedar casing. Staff analysis includes the comments from the March 8th business meeting business meeting hearing. For sake of time, I'm going to read those out. But commissioners at the business meeting did not have any comments regarding this application. A COA was issued in December 2018 for a similar real alteration, but it was not completed. HBO staff does not support the infill of historic openings or the addition of non-historic openings in historic portions of the house, and this is per City Code 3116, which is the standards for alteration. Interior design should not influence exterior modifications. The additions do show up on the 1921 to 1951 Sanborn map and are considered. Staff recommends continuation of the application to allow the applicant time to propose a design more in line with city code and Victorian guidelines. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116-11, the standards for alteration, as well as the Victorian Village guidelines regarding windows and doors.
Thank you, Kimberly. So you state your name, get you sworn in?
Brenda Parker,
Do you agree to tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Brenda.
So we looked at this project in March, and kind of discussed the removing of the door under the porch and implementing a window, and then installing a new door into the kind of nook, this kind of addition on the back. It seemed like in the March meeting, this was well received, but the owners had replaced their roof and their gutters, which was more of a concern. And so it was required for the owners to address that situation, which I believe they did at the last meeting in April, and maybe are here tonight again. I'm not sure.
That's a separate issue.
Okay, so anyway, this was tabled because the owner needed to address the roof and gutter, and so it was we tabled it instead of voting on it.
All right, so any thoughts or comments from the group? So I think staff's recommendation is continuance. I think there was some discussion last time about, its location, responsive to the addition. The addition is now considered historic as well. I think the door type, some clarity if I can remember our discussions. So I'm just trying to prompt dialogue of what we talked about in our last couple of meetings regarding the project.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things, right? And she was saying there's the separate issue with the roof and stuff, which is still not resolved, just to be clear. But, I think we had talked about this and said, look, it's just back in the back corner and we could maybe be a little flexible here. They address the type of door by putting in the correct type of door. And I think that's kind of where we left it. So as long as we're keeping this separate, I don't see a problem. Staff's comments notwithstanding, right? And we have to probably talk about that, but I think that's my
I thought we
summary.
were okay with everything this
Yes.
separate from.
Yeah, that's where I thought we left it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only thing just kind of clarity on is, maybe materiality and those kind of understandings of what kind of brick and what brick is going to, be infilled, sills, like limestone sills and just things like that, that we still do our due diligence of, being able to put a proper opening in. I don't think that we really got there,
Yeah,
at
we
that
probably
time.
should. That's a
We
good
probably
point.
should at this time, so just something to put on the table.
Do you want me to go through the specific materials that are being proposed?
That'd be great if there's some information regarding that.
So, where we're taking the door out, we're installing a new Marvin Ultimate wood double hung window, so wood interior, wood exterior. It will be painted to match the existing. We're installing a limestone sill that will be similar.
to the existing and brick infill beneath, which again is not going to be an exact match, but will be complementary. And then the new door being proposed is a 3/4 light wood door that will be. I'm not sure if they're gonna paint it or stain it, but I don't think you guys really worry about.
Yeah, and are they gonna feather that? The brick infill, do you know, or?
I have it shown just being straight infill within the door opening to indicate that it was an opening that was partially infilled.
What do you
Because
guys think about
it's
I prefer it to be too thick.
toothed in. Okay, we can tooth it in.
Okay,
That is to say, the brick needs to be pretty,
It needs to be close at that point, as well as the
Correct.
mortar.
Yeah.
So I'll make those notes that it needs to, that both the brick and the mortar need to match, and it's gonna be toothed in.
correct.
And that color brick is a pretty common, especially on the match.
If we're doing that, is the size of the window appropriate? And I assume it's following the width of the door currently versus maybe what, if you were punching a new opening, what the size of that window is, or does it be?
I'm talking width.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's several different widths on the back of the house already.
yeah, I didn't,
It's,
that didn't draw attention to.
yeah.
I think it
it's
would-
removed from the other ones.
I think you'd end up with a worse looking end result if you changed the width.
All right. Kimberly, do you need anything else in terms of some of these materials and such for your application?
I don't believe so. If
Okay.
it does get moved to an approval, I will need reasons why.
Okay. So some of the comments that was made, I think at the business meeting related to its location, addition, the current existing addition, things of that nature, I think probably would be helpful for Kimberly. So can someone maybe move to a vote then, or vote to a motion, sorry?
Motion for VB 23 03 011 365 West Hubbard as submitted with infill brick to be toothed into blend.
Gotcha. Material, limestone, she already got that. Yes. That makes sense, yes. Is there a second?
Second,
Any further discussion or clarification? Is there anything?
Clarify reasoning.
You want that
I
now?
was gonna ask the reasoning of the past.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect, all right. So we'll call a vote then. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? So motion passed. Now,
I figured that would be the case, but I still wanted to do
of
that.
course, no, it makes sense.
So-
Thank you.
Reasoning. I believe we've noted because it's in the back corner, can't see it from the right side.
Very limited visibility.
Under a porch nonetheless.
Yeah, under a porch in a back corner.
and then the only other thing, do we need to be over redundant in that this is separate from the roof issue?
I don't believe so because it's a separate
Okay.
application.
Okay, I just.
And the other application is part of a code violation.
Okay,
So if I'm not following up, the code officer might.
okay, I just want to make sure.
That was perfect. No, it's good, good. All right,
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Application number 2 is 1226 Forsyth Avenue. This application is to modify the siding on the rear additions from the previously approved 4-inch vertical siding to a 12-inch vertical siding. Install the hardy board on the main house over the existing wood siding. I've included the comments from the April 17th hearing. The commissioners at the business meeting wanted to confirm with the applicant, or the application was being updated to include a change from the previously approved 4-inch vertical siding to the 12-inch board and batten siding. And I also do want to confirm that's vertical too, but y'all can discuss when I
Okay.
hand things over, so don't go too far down rabbit holes.
Okay.
The commission also noted that the rafter tails should be maintained. HBO staff conducted a site visit on May 1st. It was determined that the existing wood siding was damaged during the removal of the vinyl siding and severely rotted at the ends due to a lack of maintenance. Staff does support the installation of the hardy siding, with the wood details being maintained. The commission has previously requested scaled and measured section drawings of transitional areas of the siding. We will need to discuss if that also needs to be a requirement for this application. Based on the previous photos, the K-style or OG, I'll just refer to them as K-style moving forward. Gutters were previously installed on the house with stairs. There was no fascia board that appears to have been present. Since the gutters were removed as part of the ongoing work at the property, would the commission be okay with replacing the K-style gutters back on, or would placing half round gutters on be more appropriate? Staff does recommend approval of the application with the following conditions. Those being the wood details on the gable ends, east and west, are retained and repaired as needed. The rafter tails are maintained in their original open condition, and the hardy siding should have a 4-inch exposure on the horizontal lap siding and smooth finish to match the original dimensions, and that's the portion on the main house. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 31.16, these standards for alteration, as well as City Code 3116.12, these standards for new construction, the Victorian Village guidelines on the siding, and that's all.
Thank you, Kimberly. Can you guys state your name, get you sworn in?
Darren Shu, the owner.
Shad Morris, contractor.
Perfect. Do you guys agree to tell the truth, nothing but the
Yes.
truth?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Anything else to add?
It's like we're family now. We've been here so many
Of
times.
course. Of course.
The only thing, after our site visit that I disagree with is the fascia board and the gutters. I know, we had a discussion about it last time. That's the only thing that really is different. And with the addition being closed in with the fascia and soffit, because of how it was built, or how it was approved, it's gonna look so much different than the rest of the house if we keep it open rafters. So that's the only question / concern as a contractor, and the way that the house is gonna look when it's finished. It's gonna have two completely different looks, you know, with the closed in soffit and the fascia and the gutters. And the only way it would even remotely kind of match a little bit is we did fascia on the front side, even leaving it open underneath on the top and bottom of the original house, and just putting the regular gutters. That way, at least the gutters match, and it kind of symbols everything matching. If that makes sense? I'm sorry, and it's kind of confusing, but it's just gonna look so much different in the front on that picture right there. I mean, that's all gonna be closed in. That's part of the addition.
So the concern, and just quickly, just for us, so the concern is, there's only one concern that you have is the condition or the recommendation that's in the staff report regarding the existing homes, soffit and fascia detailing.
Right.
And then as it compares to the existing home, as it compares to the addition that was
Right.
approved.
It's just gonna look totally separate, you know.
And I think that's important.
Makes sense.
Well, I was,
See that difference. So the original house, you see, this is how we used to build. This is what it is. And then, and quite frankly, most people aren't gonna look up and see that. People that have historic knowledge or architectural knowledge or design knowledge will notice it. But for the most part, that house should be pristine. And then the back gutters are enclosed.
I agree with that to the most part, but when you drive the neighborhood, there's like, you can't tell. That's we've actually had this discussion before about you can't. All the rest of the neighborhood all looks the same, no matter if they've kept the wood siding or if they've added new wood siding or if they've added vinyl siding. You know, before you guys came into effect of the no vinyl, there's not any house in that area back there that looks like an addition. Everything looks like it's all the same.
Wait till the applications start coming in on your street. Quite frankly.
So, and that makes sense. But I think that we've been pretty consistent about, I think when we kind of talk about this home, we've always talked about, you know, the existing original home and the original structure. And then how do you create a little bit of differentiation between that and addition? And I think that kind of was echoed in that siding kind of conversation, vertical versus horizontal, things of that, or existing versus new.
Okay.
You know, things like that. So I think
Right,
we've
right.
been pretty consistent in that.
Okay.
So can you just share kind of your thoughts on maybe the gutter condition? So I think we understand open versus closed fascia and soffit, but can you talk about gutter and gutter style?
Well, there's only two that you approved, correct?
No, there's a number
Oh,
different, so depending on, the house and the style,
Right.
the K-style, stop gutters, box gutters, I wanna say, and they have round, so 4 different.
on this one, what was the one that originally we had, you told me the other day and I forgot already.
The K-style
K
is
style,
up on here
previously, right, and you want the round, the half round, correct? Now, if we install it, if we go back to do the half round, we actually have to cut the roof line back in order to, because right now we have fascia on there. So we have to tear off approximately about 8 to 12 inches all the way across the top of the house and on the bottom
Why?
to put it, because now we have drip edge and we've installed and we have shingles put over top of that and we have ice bar on top of that.
Not necessarily, I just replaced all mine and didn't have to pull up any of that.
So you took regular box gutters, I mean, I'm sorry, not box gutters. The half, you put half round where there was a fascia and soffit before. Okay, well, I need your contractor's name and number then.
And if I think we're just trying to, like, for instance, if there's one photograph, Hunter, can you go back to and zoom into the existing front of the home? And yeah, it's just gonna maybe zoom in, yep, that second photograph there. I think I guess what we're trying to say is that, you know, the character of transitioning from that open rake and those open rafter tails. Is this the condition here where it looks like there's maybe new wood that's been kind of scabbed in because that you were going to anticipate closing it in?
Right,
So if that,
and it's rotten.
right, so if that new wood was removed and there was repair to maybe like in kind to elements, is that still a possibility of leaving the open rake?
Yeah, it's not the front of it, it's the underneath is fine, we can leave the underneath, I have no problem. But if we don't put a fascia board on the front, then she's saying we can, but as a builder, I haven't seen how we can do it. So.
I think we're questioning whether we, because it shouldn't have a fascia board, I think is what we're saying.
Right, I mean, well, and it's also, it goes back to if someone installs a wrong roof, that's not necessarily the concern of this commission. Things got out of order.
But we had
This
gutters,
did not-
on this original.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay, I just wanna, yeah.
The open rafters are a defining feature of this house.
Right.
They need to be preserved and be exposed.
Interesting.
Can they be exposed from underneath versus face on?
All of them do, the whole length of the upper story. You should
Well, he's
see
saying.
the deck.
I'm saying that if you put a fascia, if you put a board on
then
it,
just,
right,
get rid of this, I would say no, I mean, it's easy, right, it's not exposed as bad.
That was just what was on it when he purchased the house, that's why, that's. and we
Well, I
talked
mean, it's
about
all,
that.
a lot of
We
things
talked about
that we would never approve today,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
I think we're just trying to bring the house back
I understand.
in this best and the most appropriate way from
Right.
that perspective,
And this version.
And we appreciate the dialogue because it is a little bit
Yeah, there you
challenging,
go.
what was there prior and then balancing it out with the new.
What page is that?
So that's all. So thank you.
Five.
Hunter, you know, page 5.
There's 2 P houses.
Oh, it's the,
That's 5-2.
yeah, it's the,
The remote.
Yeah, there's the gutter.
yeah, so you can see that's,
Doesn't have a page on.
right, that's what it should look like with the half.
I don't know, but that one, yeah.
So there's just be a strap and.
The strap
Yep,
is-
it's
Strap that goes up, yeah, it goes up underneath the shingles
Yep.
and comes down.
Exactly.
Yeah, we,
And again, it's a little bit untraditional than maybe what the back and that addition is gonna, be, but I think that's the intent of being able to get that back on the existing structure. Would you feel that's able to be accomplished? I mean, okay.
anything can be built, I mean, yeah, I
Okay,
mean.
okay,
It depends on how much he wants to spend.
understandable. So that would be the half round. All right, so siding, siding, I think if I just kind of, siding had 2 parts. One is the front, one is the rear. I think the last time we clarified the rear, it's the 12-inch vertical.
Yeah, yeah, so it's 12 inch vertical.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got that worked out last time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Siding on the front now, it seems like from the visit, it seems like the recommendation, just given the care or the quality of that and the conditions of the existing Recommendation has come to be hardy with a 4-inch exposure.
So it should have the corner boards.
Yes.
Understandable. So we have the corner boards, we have the trims. And then also, I think the recommendation, I'm just looking that way, the recommendation is only thinking about keeping the existing gable end siding. So how are you planning on making the transition between, and without losing the character
Right.
of the existing trim?
We're actually going to try to cut our hardy to match that. That's our, we want to keep that. We don't want to, we're with you on that. We don't want to lose that. So we would like to try to, if we have to, just copy and paste, trace it, and we'd like to cut the hardy right up into that.
And do you think that you can keep the first hardy, I'm gonna say, recessed from the gable trim? So meaning the gable trim would still be proud of that first hardy board? Or are you gonna have to build that out?
No, I think that's a 3/4 inch piece right there.
Okay.
On top of there. So I'm hoping it could be, if not smooth, then it'll, when it comes down and that first piece has a little bit of a ledge coming down like this, I'm hoping we can get that piece up there tight. So it's smooth with what's up there now, is what I'm hoping. I mean, we definitely want to keep that. Now, above those windows, that's gonna be just trim. That's gonna be the one by the hardy trim is what it's gonna be. There's definitely not enough room there to get a piece of hardy above that. So again, we'll take the trim and we'll try to cut it in there so it mimics the dental or the, whatever you want to call that.
That's like.
I got it.
Yeah, I know sometimes we ask for some of those details.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that first justified piece of hardy could be thinner or something, not thinner, but thinner.
Mhm.
So we get a little bit of a difference between the vertical piece and then your horizontal piece, so it would read like it kind of does now. You see there's.
Unfortunately, I can't compromise the hardy itself because I would lose the warranty on the hardy. If we had a leak there, say I planed it down and then I go back and say in 3 years this thing's leaking, and that they determine that's where it's leaking from, and I plane that down, I'll lose the warranty on the hardy, unfortunately.
And I would think you would get a leak quicker with the differentiation of this being overlaid versus it being.
What's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping the hardy is gonna be the same level as that right there, and then come down, and then we can caulk and then repaint it.
Right.
Is what I'm hoping. Or we can take, I mean, if you'd rather, across that whole side there, we could take a piece of trim, take one whole piece of trim and make it like that, but it would be like a trim piece that goes all the way across.
And just paint it out the color
And
of
then,
the hardy.
I mean, if
We
that's
about
the
that.
same
No.
type of like 1x5 or 1x6 we're gonna use on the corner beads, or I just don't think that's gonna look very good.
I would agree.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give you different options here to see.
So is there sheathing behind the existing siding?
No, I don't believe there's anything behind that. It shouldn't be. That
Yeah,
right there is what
that
holds
all
these
up
balloon
and
houses
relaying it.
together.
Well,
Not
because you're
being
just
right.
using modern
Yeah,
materials.
you take that off with this balloon framing, the whole house is gonna
Well,
implode.
that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
So,
It's gonna be unique. Okay. And then we're gonna do, what is the trim boards that you guys are putting around the windows? Is that gonna echo what was there before? Is it the 1x4?
It's a Hardy makes a 1x4 or 1x6, whatever you approve. And same thing that goes on the corner beads on both sides.
So that was the 1x4, 5/4 board on the sides, 5/4 on the sides, and then 1x4 or 5/4 on the windows. Okay. 5/4x4. All right. All right, so siding, I think are we good on, before we punt? All right, so eaves and fascia, I think we're coming to an understanding on that now.
And I just want for the record, you're asking for the open, what is it? The open and with the half-round gutters?
Yes.
Yeah,
correct.
And we're okay with that.
You can do that.
I can build it, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just if we vote on something and it has changed from what you've applied for, we need to have your verbal agreement.
I don't think it really matters if we, if we agree, I mean, if we like it or not, I mean, it's
Right.
it's obviously what's gonna have to happen, so.
Well, sometimes it's how the vote goes.
Yeah,
But it's nice, we do have that agreement.
I'd much rather put a face on there, but I'm gonna be outvoted, so.
Yeah, and it's understandable, just being able to balance that. And so eaves in the fascia, I think we feel pretty comfortable. And then the last item I was gonna mention is the gutters, which is, I think we're good on the gutters from that perspective too as well, the half round. And so those were all the items before we transition to calling a motion. Is there anything else that we should touch on?
I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
Where are we going, how the plans were drawn up as far as where the break point is between the addition? So where the two-story comes down, that's our break point between horizontal and vertical,
Yes.
right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, where the original house.
Original house
Yeah, right.
versus any well.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that back part was actually original too, because we actually have to do the basement too, but I think that would be a better break point right there.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were,
Yeah.
so if I build this thing and then you guys say, no.
Yeah, and
Just
we
wanna make
want to
sure.
have open soffits halfway down.
Yeah, yes, okay, perfect.
Yeah, so again, a little bit of, go ahead.
Oh, nice. So you just said something. I want to make sure. So you said, are we closing, the original house is having the open
The
The
two-story.
two-story
with the,
part of the house will be all
regular,
open.
with the
Yeah.
open.
But
gutter?
the one-story portion can be all.
Okay,
closed.
that's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you for saying that.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry.
Motion as well.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure we knew exactly where the break point was.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, so, is there a motion?
Or a motion, part A.
Yeah.
We want to start on the siding on the house.
We can do that. We can break it down by an A, B, C, and D. That's fine from that standpoint.
Well, so what has changed from what was proposed?
So siding wise, no problem. So siding wise, I think the clarity is that now we're going for based upon the site inspection. So looking at Hardy.
But that's what's in the application.
That is correct.
So that would be
And
as
yep,
submitted.
with 4-inch exposure, that's as submitted.
Right.
I think the only thing that has,
With the addition.
With the
Yeah.
addition of board.
thank you so much, Melinda. And then I think the clarity today, as far as the eaves and the fascia conditions, where we're gonna leave it open on the existing home,
I would call it the two-story portion.
2-story, thank you.
Half round.
And then with half round gutters throughout,
It's the only
and then
thing.
we're closed as submitted for the rear addition.
Yeah.
Including all the 1-story
I'll get the suggestions.
conditions.
All right, motion on VV 2304007, 1226 Forsyth Ave, to approve as submitted with the following clarifications. The siding, the hardy board will have, on the 4-inch hardy board will have corner boards added. The eaves on the 2-story portion of the original home will be open with no fascia boards, and exposing the existing, thank you, the rafter tails. The rear 1-story portion of the home can have closed soffits, as proposed. The gutters on both portions of the home are to be half round.
And it's also to maintain the existing gable siding.
Good.
Detail. As it exists.
And that's on the front and the rear, is that correct?
That's what I was just gonna ask. So you want the half round on the, even on where there's fascia and the soffit?
Yeah.
It seems like that will be consistent. And then the existing trim and that siding, that's on both the rear and the front.
Yes,
That
it
was
is.
the main.
Yes.
Right, that's perfect.
All right.
Just to be clear, since we didn't, I don't know that we said it specifically, so your original plan with the hardy board and how to interface with that kind of sawtooth.
Right.
Do that, don't do any trim.
And trim, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna look a lot better.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. So are we able to capture the additional dialogue that we just had for clarification within
I have
Reed's motion?
all of that as part of the motion, so
Okay,
we
just
have
wanna
one
be sure.
big motion.
All right. And there was a second?
There was.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
right, application number 3 is 60 West Lincoln Street. This application is for a window replacement, a full frame removal of the existing third-story aluminum window, replaced with the Pella Architect traditional wood clad double hung window. Replacement window would have a tan exterior with a half screen and new cedar window trims to be replaced. I've included comments from the July 13, 2022 hearing for the commissioners. Commissioners at the business meeting requested cut sheets for the previously approved window for Victorian Gate, which is the Pella Impervia, so that they could compare and contrast the details from the two models. The applicant has provided the requested documents and they have been included with the meeting materials. The Victorian Gate condominiums are a non-historic structure or series of structures which have an agreement in place, only having the Pella Impervia windows previously approved for use. The Pella Impervia windows are a fiberglass composite exterior and interior, while the Pella Architect traditional wood clad are presumably wood. The Pella Architect series reserve are the Pella wood windows that are listed on the approved windows list. Is the commission okay with the difference in materials between the two windows? Staff recommends approval of the application with the condition that the replacement window is from the approved windows list. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.111, the standards for alteration and the Victorian Village guidelines regarding windows and doors. Do we have the applicant for 60 West Lincoln here?
Oh, man.
All right, so we are coming back to number 3.
Okay,
I have a feeling I should have asked first.
I know, it's all right.
I was holding out hope. All right, application number 4 is 199 West 3rd Avenue. All right, this is a landscaping application to add a brick sidewalk, parking pad, and replace the existing patio with new brick patio, replace the existing concrete steps and concrete stoop with new brick, remove the existing chain link fence and construct a 6-foot tall wood privacy fence with vertical board. The proposed fence would be similar to an existing fence to the east. Mature trees on the property have been removed by approval. They're also proposing new trees, bushes, and plantings. Commissioners at the business meeting noted that they would like an explanation for why the mature trees were removed. Plants on the site plan should be labeled or examples of the proposed plants provided. HPO staff recommends removing the tree proposed at the northwest corner further back so as not to impede with the vision triangle. And the applicant did provide an updated site plan with some of the plants marked, which is the picture. And if there's any complaints about that, I took the pictures. So I make no promises on how good that was for my cell phone. So staff recommends continuing the application to allow the applicant to provide updated details on the proposed plants. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.13, the standards for site improvement, as well as the Victorian Village guidelines on fences and yards.
Thank you. Can you state your name, get you sworn in, sir?
Bruce Schumar.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead. If there's anything else that you want to add, to help us.
I don't know. Do you have questions or what should I start with?
Anything about the project that maybe the staff hasn't, clarified or their thoughts, or if there's anything that you feel as though from staff's recommendation that you need to clarify that would help us in understanding or providing our comments?
Well, I have several different patio materials that I'm wanting to come up with just one patio material. So I've got a concrete porch in the front, and the back has those 18-inch square concrete pieces. And so I'm wanting to do all that in a brick. And then the parking pad, I think it's a concrete brick that's better for the cars as opposed to the gravel that's there.
Can you speak to a little bit about maybe the mature trees at all?
Yes, the mature trees.
Yes, sir.
There were 2 of them in the back of the property. They are swamp maples is what they're called. The one in the very front is also a swamp maple. And the tree people said they're common, but they grow very fast and they break limbs very easily. So when I purchased it, there were limbs on top of the slate roof, and I was wanting to get the slate roof repaired, and we were able, well, with their recommendation, the two in the back were very fragile, and the one in the front was the strongest of the three, so we have put cables in there.
When I walk by, they've actually cabled it to short up, so.
It comes up as, yeah, it's one trunk, but then they branch off, and they all were doing the same thing. So the ones in the back branched off lower and wider. The one in the front was more vertical, and so we were able to do the cables and then cut it back. But the ones in the back were in much worse shape and much wider shape, so they were spreading in the neighbor's yard. It was very attractive in seeing the house originally. It's like a little forest around it.
I understand.
But yeah, they came down and I had the roof repaired, and
Gotcha.
I apologize.
Those trees, do they show up in anything that we have? The ones that were,
The plantings, or,
the ones that were demolished, do we have anything that?
no, I don't have approvals for them, and I just want to know if any and all exterior work does require review and approval by either the Historic Preservation Office and or the Victorian Village Commission, including trees. So moving forward, before you do any work
Yeah.
on taking a tree down, please reach out to our office first.
I will, and I think you found some pictures of it that you included, so you can see. You can see the one in the back. That one is no longer with us. There is a fourth tree in the far corner. You can see that in the middle of the screen, and that is an elm, which we were told that if they break a branch, they'll hang there for years. So it was not a risky tree at all. So we just trimmed it minimally.
Anything else, sir?
No.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, sir. Comments, so we have materials, for landscaping, so that's patios, and then also materials related to the parking. And then, obviously the tree planting. And then staff's recommendation of slightly shifting, I think the one proposed tree, that's so much.
So I think probably the biggest issue here is just needing more information, needing to understand what new plant material is going in. Understanding the fence condition, is it being replaced at all? Is it existing to remain? Is it a new fence?
I can hardly hear you. I'm sorry.
Is the fence existing to remain, or is it going to
The
be?
picket fence?
Yes.
I want to keep it picket fence, but a lot of it is damaged, so ultimately I'll be replacing sections of it or pieces. And then there is a new addition of picket where it turns the corner at the cars and goes back to the house. That will be new picket to match the existing picket. Yeah, with a little gate.
Are you on the your site plan?
Second site plan as well.
It's PDF.
It's a picture. It's got the, if you zoom in, you can see the company notes.
Or Hunter's got it pulled up at the moment.
So labels were added.
Yes,
I see now. Now I understand. Thank you.
would the visual examples be more helpful for the commission? Of like pictures of what these plants might be?
I'm fine with visuals. Just, yeah.
Yeah, because we kind of have the names on them, like
I mean, yeah, these are pretty standard.
pretty standard
Yeah,
fare of plantings. I don't see any exotic.
right. So
The front, I should say, the front of the house, it looks very rigidly laid out, and I'm wanting to soften that some, but I do want to keep the idea of boxwoods and the sweet bay and ferns, but it might undulate more.
Are you able or willing to move the saucer magnolia away from that corner? The concern there raised by staff is just its location and from a site triangle for vehicular traffic in particular, it's not creating a.
Yes. Yeah, I don't want to create a traffic issue. I like having a tree in that corner, but possibly a more vertical tree. Would that do it, or just, or is it the trunk itself that would be a problem?
It's typically the trunk, but, you know, the branching habit does come into play. You know, even if you were to slide it back so it's in line with the face of the building, would probably open up that view corridor enough.
Yeah, I could slide it back or not do it at all, I suppose. Okay, I'm not-
That really pins that corner of that cottage and that frontage. So, Mr. Landscape, how do you accomplish that? Because it has to make a statement, it has to end, but it has to make a corner. What do we do in those situations?
Well, so you have, I mean, is it, in some ways, it's not different than what's happening with that existing tree, that you continue that hydrangea hedge to the corner and around the corner and
And that would just
terminate
and
that.
that would just slide back
behind the hedge.
behind the hedge.
Yeah, or you could go, or you could even go in the corner there, if you're willing to lose a little bit of lawn, you can just.
Oh, that would be so.
You kind of frame it, so.
And maybe you can
bring
take the hedge
hydrangea
around the corner.
and frame it into that new corner that's defined by, and so that just pulls
Oh, that-
it away a little bit.
Yeah, that makes.
Yeah.
Gives it a terminus that's actually very much almost symmetrical to what's happening on the east side.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
so they're bookends
Yeah.
in a way.
I'm very comfortable with that.
The hot tub's new?
There is no hot tub yet. It's a future possibility.
Okay.
But it'll all be patio. And if a hot tub shows up, it will sit on the patio. Most likely closer to the elm tree. Farther east. Where the two lounge chairs are, it probably, if it comes, it'll go to that corner.
So you are missing the privacy fence.
I'm watching it happen on the screen.
That's all hunter, he's much better at. doing
With the amount of impervious surface, are we hitting the maximum that's allowed for a property this size?
that. We might need to check with building and zoning,
Yeah, I would just hate for us to go through, approve everything and then go, oh no, you've.
because the building and zoning would also be able to take a look, I think, at the vision triangle, because that follows on a little bit farther, or that might be right of way. But, the building and zoning department might want to take a look at this just to make sure that we're not covering too much of the parcel, because then we might need to get into variances.
Okay.
So, that's,
And it would be covering more because of adding the official parking as opposed to the gravel. The other two patios exist, just in terrible condition.
yeah, well, since you're taking out and replacing it, kind of like putting in something new. So
Got
we take kind of a new look at it, and the building and zoning department is a separate department, but they do occasionally take a look at some things for applicants and let them know, like precursory review of, yes, this would result in variance, or no, you're okay, because lot coverage is one of the things that they're looking at, and we tend to run a little bit conservatively because variances are a longer process, and they also have it be with them too.
Okay, so I should take this to the zoning schedule with them and have them take a look at it and then come back to you, or come back to you
I
and,
think that would probably make some of the commissioners feel a little bit better, yes?
Yeah, there's just a lot of impervious surface, which I don't want to get all the way through this process just to have a problem.
And I'm not sure, since it's somewhat permeable, like how that ranks with them, because it's not my section of code that I deal with. So they're much
If-
better to speak to that.
if it is an issue of permeable surface, is there another parking pad that you all like to use that is more permeable? Yeah.
Well, you can use an actual permeable paver as an option. there's an expense associated with that, 'cause it's a different profile underneath the paper to make it allow water to percolate through. But from a city standpoint, that would be viewed differently in terms of the total impervious surface.
And that's something you all are comfortable with also, or?
As a material, yes.
All right, so if in talking to them, they're seeing too much coverage, and then I could alter it and say, what if we did this? And then they could approve, and that's something you would approve as well?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a name to that product, or is that something that's common that,
I was gonna say, we can't guarantee anything until we have fully reviewed it, so don't put the cart before the horse.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
but just in general, yeah.
Yeah, the commission has approved some permeable surfaces.
And it's like, you're saying it's a thicker product, but it has,
The paper itself, I mean, any paper that you put in here wants to be vehicular rated because you have cars on it, but it's less about the paver and more about the base that happens underneath it, the stone or aggregate that goes underneath it has to be of a certain depth to allow essentially the water to percolate.
Got it.
Do its thing.
Well, and you might have the option of doing one of the patios in it or something. if
Yeah,
you're looking to-
yeah.
So it may not have to be a parking pad.
And so, if you do end up doing that and it becomes a different product than the other paver, just make sure that they're complementary of each other. If you're able to do the same product, even better. But we just want to make sure that everything is cohesive.
okay. Well, and I've chosen a brick and a paver and both of those you're comfortable with, but
So you show the belt end, but you also show a unilock product, which is a concrete paver, which.
that's the one I don't know if that's Unilock, but it's a concrete paver, so that would be for the parking, that one. And the Belden would be for the patios and the walkway.
Okay. So you already are showing a difference between those two.
And the concrete paver, that could work on a thicker gravel bed for the drainage
You'd have to
and
see
could
what
count.
that particular paper is approved.
It's both that, but the paver itself also has there's the joint in between, each paver is wider. It's deliberately designed to allow.
To get the water to go
Yeah.
through it. So that paver might not work in that situation. It could be a different one, but
Potentially, I know Unilock does carry permeable style pavers.
Okay.
They may carry this one, I'm not sure off the top of my head.
okay.
What's the border material around the brick pave? Because it looks like there's a solid border.
Oh,
drawn.
it's, I think it was drawn as a soldier course, or they're all just lined up.
Same material, just different.
Same material, yes.
And then a hidden edging around to hold that in.
With all the Belden brick, yes, there would be that plastic edging with the spikes that,
Yeah, but you would do that in the walkway, in the belt.
it would be in the walkway and patios both, yes.
Great. Privacy fence, looks like there's maybe an existing portion of 6-foot privacy fence.
It's about 5 foot and it's running along the east side.
And new portions of fence would match that.
I would want to go to 6 foot on the new portion, and that'll be across the south side, which is all chain link right now. That whole section is chain link.
Okay.
But stopping there would be the privacy fence and then no fence beyond it. I want to just do plantings along the edge of the cars. That, where you drew that, it does turn the corner and go back to the house. So I have an enclosed back patio with a privacy fence around it.
So there's a transition from 5 foot to 6 foot.
At that tree, at the corner tree, yes.
So that they don't actually connect, the tree's gonna.
No, the tree is in, yeah.
Okay.
I could make that other section 6 foot. I would like it all to be matching.
Okay, So there's probably enough things here that I do kind of agree with the continuing, give you a chance to check in with the building and zoning, make sure that we're not in an issue with the lot coverage of impervious surface. While you're doing that, I would recommend that we maybe clarify a few things on the plan to then get it back in front of us so we can do the formal vote, if that's okay.
Okay.
So things to
And clarifying things would be the corner tree,
Yeah, the corner tree.
possibly drawing a new
Let's kind of
location or.
Show that in the right location, clarify that, kind of clearly making sure we understand existing versus proposed sections of fence. If not,
How should I clarify that anymore? I feel like
You could do it with color.
You can highlight it, that would be kind of helpful.
just color in
Yeah.
what will be
Just
new
so-
as opposed to what's existing.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could always make a little scribble somewhere off to the
Yep,
side if
yep.
you're gonna do it yourself.
Or if it's a separate copy of it that you can just mark up as an exhibit.
Okay.
And then if we can also clarify, if the hot tub is indeed future, what is going in.
And where it will be ultimately placed.
And, it looks like around it, maybe there's some steps coming,
Yeah.
just,
We could
If
just
that's
go without
happening-
the hot tub. I might just make a statement, there is no hot tub. If I ultimately get one, I could come back to you for
yes.
location.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would probably be the easiest. So if that is the case, just make it clear on the plan what is going in now versus, and we'll worry about the future later.
Okay.
Shit, true. And then on the application, did it talk about like in kind for the existing picket fence? You talked about the existing picket fence, there was going to be some work done on the existing picket fence.
Yes, and there'll be a new picket fence that I would build to match the existing.
Okay, so that would also just need to be clarified, I think, on the site plan.
I have tagged what's new and existing, but I need to do it with color would be
Yes.
helpful.
We are
You just need to know where it
Or
stops.
color, okay. So it's just that one section is new, the rest is existing, just,
Okay,
And to clarify the note, the new picket fence to match the existing.
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very helpful. So, is there a motion to continue?
Motion to continue VV 23 05 007 199 West Third Avenue.
Is there a second? Second. All right, just cast a vote since we've talked it through. Is all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
all right.
Continue. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Kimberly.
You're welcome. I'll be in touch.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to the next application, which is number 5. And that is 910 Denison Avenue. This application is design changes to previously approved plans, including previously approved floor plan was adjusted due to building code, ADA requirements, and structural report. The depth of the brick on the west side increased from 4 foot 10 inches to 6 feet 4.5 inches for stairs. Windows on the north side of the southwest addition removed. Windows on the east side of the southwest addition reduced from 2 foot 8 inches to 2 foot to allow for additional structural breaking in the corners. Windows and door on the south and west sides of the southwest addition were also shifted towards the center of the addition to provide proper structural bracing in the corners. Wall heights were updated and windows on the second floor raised 6 inches, while the windows on the third floor were raised 5 inches. That has no effect to the overall structural height, that remains the same. Depth of the cantilever on the brick structure's west side changed from 2 feet to 1 foot 4 inches and no longer overhanging a portion of the parking lot. Brackets were added to provide additional support for the cantilever due to the lack of structure because of the requirements at the stair. Windows on the north and west side of the buildings were removed or relocated, with the door at the west wall being replaced to a solid 1-panel door. Commissioners at the business meeting inquired about a lighting plan, to which the applicant did clarify that there are no fixtures. The commissioners present also requested previously approved site plans are included in the materials. so that they are able to compare the two designs. The applicant also clarifies that much of the alterations are due to structural needs. Staff recommends approval of the application with any and all clarifications to be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, as well as 3116.12, the standards for new construction.
Thank you. Can you state your names? Get you sworn in?
Heidi Bolliard, Simplified Living Architecture. I've not been sworn.
Michael Yankelovich, Mishkat LLC, owner of the building.
Perfect. Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. Hand it over to you guys.
Yeah, so we had to make a few minor modifications to the plan, either for structural purposes. Mostly the items that were at the front corner of the building that has the majority of the glazing in it. We had to make some modifications for that, for structure with moving windows in slightly from the corners. And then also with, for ADA purposes, with the new stair that's in that section that is on the west side of the building, that needed to extend further out. So we also had to remove some windows on that north side of that corner structure that has all of the glazing in it as well. And then there was also on that cantilevered structure that is on the brick wall where the stairs located at, we didn't want that to be overhanging. So while we had to extend the brick wall out further, we kept the location of the cantilevered structure. And then because that didn't have the structural integrity that it needs, we also added some brackets that matched the brackets that had already been approved for the project in another location. And then the other area, which is on the north side of the building, because that's connected there, or there's a parking lot right there, but it's not owned as part of the build or as this property. We had to remove the windows at that location just because it is so close to the property line.
Gotcha. Anything else? Awesome. Yeah. Any comments? From the team?
What were our comments in the business meeting?
You had asked about the lighting.
Right, and they said it was built in.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, Lisa.
can lights underneath those porches.
It seems like the spirit of the project was maintained. It seemed like, yeah, I don't respond to that here.
Yeah, there were minimal comments at the
Yeah.
business meeting.
Because it didn't seem like materiality or anything of that nature changed. Is there a motion?
Motion for VV-23-05-008-910 Denison Avenue as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Good luck, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back actually too as well. So we appreciate it. Thank
Don't be too nice.
you.
All right, moving on to our next application, which is number 6. This is 997 to 1001 North High Street. If the applicant would like to come up while I'm reading this one. Right, so this application is one of two for this address. The first one being the exterior modification, adding the trail along the ramp entrances, changing the door swings to swing into the store space, adding automatic door openings to 2 of the entry doors, removing existing transom, and replacing with modified transom window with fresh air vent, removed and replaced the entire storefront in like kind. Commissioners at the business meeting requested clarifications on where the automatic open button would be placed and if other alternatives have been considered, such as pad. Commissioners also noted that a windbreak would likely be needed on the interior. They also requested clarification on if the buttons would be placed in the existing conduits and noted that the replacement of the storefront and the kind would need to match materials as well, and they would need architectural details and probably proposed metal storefront would apply to the building, not just the clutter product sheet. Does recommend continuing the application to allow for submittal of additional information. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3160/11, the standards for alteration, as well as the Victorian Village Guidelines on storefront rehabilitation.
Thank you, Kimberly. Any gentlemen state your name and get you sworn in?
Stefan Saheda, Red Architecture. Jim Spiegel with the Robert Weiler Company.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you, sir. All right, go ahead, guys.
I guess I just want to start that the first couple items that she mentioned were accessibility items that were brought to us by the city that we needed to resolve as an existing building condition with the ramps entry at the storefront. They just suggested the addition of a handrail, swinging the doors in, and then applying some sort of automatic door opener. So we are actually just complying with exactly what they're requesting us to do. The location of the button for the automatic door opener, we wanted to actually, or we were indicating to be applied to the side of the pier that's right there by the entrance doors. And I think I called it out briefly a little bit there. There are two doors that are being affected here. There's actually three doors that are existing on for those two suites right now. The third door would not need to be an accessible entrance. It could just be used for an exit. So we don't need to apply that material for that particular door. And then regarding the storefront itself, we already discussed with staff about the knee wall, and we're going to try to keep the knee wall portion. Ideally, the owner would like to replace the rest of the storefront with aluminum, but to do it in like kind, it's actually wood now, so we couldn't do aluminum to replace like for like. And I guess I did want to point out that my drawing is not exactly the most accurate thing, but if you take a look at pictures, there are a couple of differences in the storefront between each of the storefronts and how that storefront was assembled. The condition of the storefront is such bad shape that they really wanted to replace the entirety of the storefront. And if they were going to do that, one of the questions I would ask is if we need to actually replace everything like for like, including the profile and design of each storefront, or if we could be consistent with each of the openings and select a certain vernacular and style, for each of the openings, with the trim work, et cetera.
Is that all I had to say?
That's all I have.
Okay. Is there anything about that rear? Was there enough clarity on the rear?
We were okay with the rear part.
Okay, perfect. All right, so.
So my only question, so about the access, who told you?
The plans reviewer, and he took it to Amit Ghosh, and he's the one that suggested that we do what we're proposing.
Wow.
So is the occupancy inside less than?
Yes, the occupancy for both of those spaces would be less than 25, I would say. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's why we can swing the doors in.
Okay.
Would you be able to kind of share understanding how that installation will work? So will we have any exposed conduit or?
No, on the exterior, it's supposed to be wireless, push that.
Wireless.
Yeah.
Storefronts?
Storefront seem like that's the big.
Absolutely not to aluminum.
Understand.
That's a huge difference in material, profile, bulky ugliness, completely out of character for this building.
What about the ideal of being able to, bring back the right character, or establish the right character?
So I wholeheartedly think it should read individual, not every storefront is consistently the same across the front of that thing. Because in the old days, each shop owner, even though it was owned by one person, those would have been different, a little bit different, not crazy different. But I think those should all retain some type of individuality as storefronts.
And how much do they vary? It's hard to tell from the pictures.
It's kind of a bit different.
Yeah, you get a really thin.
Yeah,
And what I,
one in the center has the thin,
The
it's
thin.
what I
turned.
don't want to see is a total first floor, all the same, which reads as one.
Right, understand.
Yeah.
Because the last application that came in, you know what they wanted to do with that whole front thing?
For sure.
And put the garage doors and everything, and just totally obliterate the reading of individual storefronts. So I think it's important that we keep
It's a good one.
that going.
But it is storefronts within the same building,
Mhm.
you know, so. I mean,
With that said, are you okay if we keep the the buildings as a whole as opposed to each individual one? So if you zoom out, you'll see that's what you also requested when we renovated the upper floors. You'll see the 989 through the 989 through 993 building, which is to the left. We had originally proposed to do the whole building all the same, all black windows. So we made the first building have black windows with like, we have like gooseneck lights over the sidewalks. Those have, I believe, black goosenecks. And then the building that we're looking at now has the tan windows with the grids with blue lights. So are you okay if we keep those, I guess it would be 3 storefronts the same, and then the 989 building the same?
And are you still, and the wood ones, are you planning on carrying them out completely and rebuilding them? Rather
it's-
than just repairing them?
It's completely, I mean, you can literally put your hand through it. And then all the windows,
Here all the fixtures are the same.
yeah, if you go to the second building, there may not be a photo of the second building. No photo.
There wouldn't be a whole one.
You can see it, there's.
Oh, I see the difference.
Yeah. So all of that storefront is just plywood painted. And it's in very poor shape. You could literally put your hand or foot through it. And originally we had also thought about how the doors kind of inset on each one is kind of the reason where we've hit the hiccup on the whole ADA thing, is because they're recessed from the front of the building, they have a ramp. We initially wanted to bring all that forward, make it level with the sidewalk, but
So Kimberly, you might want to do a little bit of history poking. What did we do in the old furniture building that is now Marcella's or Marcella's?
That was 601 North High Street. I was just looking at that file.
Because that would be a good one to look at as far as material and what they did and everything. Because historically, most of these guys just go in and they have a carpenter that repairs their individual thing and they do it. But that project individually, I'm almost positive those were new storefronts. So you might want to check to see.
Okay, I can also ask Jamie.
Jamie probably would know.
Yes, she probably staffed Victorian at that time.
That was probably 3 kids. He probably doesn't remember. But you know how that goes.
Not that.
Oh, that's right. You don't know yet, but you will.
Good reference. That's a good reference.
But you will.
So I can supply the files for 601 North High Street. All right, well, that series.
It's almost the same sister building at the other end of the short north, but it was on the corner. And it has that first floor that was different storefronts, and then above that plum, it's all the same.
And I could also take a look at the historic photos we have in the
Yep.
file too, to see if there's anything aside from, what was it, the 60s, 70s pop on.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
So it seems like that covers all the items. We have the handrails, ADA push button security on that, then the storefront, and then the spirit of the individuality, looking at different consistent like in kind wood, looking at some of these resources that Kimberly's going to potentially offer. Is there anything else that we need to cover?
So I did want to talk about handrails. So that's not really a feature we see along the storefronts in the short north.
So is that handrail being required for the front?
It would be
Because the
in that
door opens
alcove area along the ramp.
I guess my question is, what's the slope of the ramp?
People say it's like it could be
Yeah.
considered a grade change
It
and not.
would almost be like a curb ramp. I mean,
Well-
it's 4 to 5 inches, I want to say.
Over how many feet?
It varies. So if you go to the very corner, the end of the building is the highest. And as it goes down, by the time you get to the old flower child space, it's all level. So the street.
I walk by that building all the time and I've never understood that. When you say ramp, I can't even, like in the back, I know,
I would
not.
It is a ramp.
Well, I guess just clarifying what the slope of that existing sidewalk is, because depending on how steep it is, you may or may not need a ramp. It may be considered a grade change versus a ramp. If it's just a grade change, then I think our preference would be that, you know, if code's not requiring a handrail, that a handrail would not be installed.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Well, if it's like a curb ramp, I mean, it's if you're within that 6 foot dimension, I think it is.
Yeah,
6 inches,
It is all.
kind of functions the same way.
And it is all like it's 6 feet. I mean, it's.
It may be a situation where just that needs to be clarified with the, plans reviewer from that perspective.
Yeah.
Because if that wasn't really on your radar, on your drawings in terms of clarifying that slope, they're probably, telling you need a handrail or to clarify potentially
Yeah,
that
because if
slope.
it's labeled a ramp, they'll assume it's 1 and 12.
That's correct. Is that kind of a fair maybe assessment of maybe where you guys are in conversation?
I could certainly check go back to the plans reviewer and talk to them more about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So seems like obviously there's some homework to be done, so seems like we want to continue. Is that what you guys are under the impression that that's acceptable solution?
Or is there anything we want to break out in approval, or do we want to see all of this back?
I want to see it all as a.
It seemed like it's all kind of tied together.
Yeah, I don't know if they will, I'm not sure what they're going to consider acceptable with accessibility, like if they still wanted to have some sort of automatic door opener system, if that's something that.
What would, I guess, think about it from your perspective too. So there's a couple of things that you're going to go back and check on. You are obviously in communication with the building department. You probably have a set of drawings that they're under. Is there anything that would help you take the next step with them that we could offer you today?
Yeah, I can't think of anything right now, no.
Oh, and one more thing that we brought up from the business meeting was the profile of the opener.
Yes. You're right.
So
We're
those can be
concerned
fairly
about
large.
how big the auto operator is.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it'll be
I mean,
very
it'd be like
visible
an-
through the transom.
No, I'm talking about the opener that actually opens. the
So-
Oh, well, the opener should be on the interior.
Yes, but it's right behind the large piece of glass. So looking and making sure that,
Yeah,
It's
you might
minimized.
see some of it through the transom above the door, is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah,
So,
because some of them are, yay tall, and it's blocking half of your transom. So clarification, maybe drawing that in the elevation.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have a cut sheet on that, so I can take a look at what we're proposing for that, but.
Just a point of clarification, do we cover that? Is that considered an exterior feature?
I think it might be considered interior, but we do have purview on the signage on the window.
well, no, it's an integral part of the door that you're replacing and it's within the view of the window. So if we built a wall that was part of something that was inhibiting the view, it would be allowed.
I think just kind of thinking about it too is, I think as we have this dialogue.
Clarify too.
I was gonna say, yeah, we, okay.
I think it's about.
It's part of the door. It's
That
not-
I think is a reason.
But I think also, guys, it's a little bit of education, I think, for us too. So if the building department is asking for these things potentially, there probably are going to be other properties. And so then at least there may be an understanding that allow this process to educate us a little bit too, of maybe a solution that could work in this kind of condition. So there's a little bit of exchange there. So that could be helpful if we were to share that cut sheet as well.
Because the ventilation piece on the back door is beautiful.
Yes.
That is,
You approve that.
So is there a motion to continue?
Motion to continue VV 23 05 009 997 North High Street.
Is there a second?
second,
Vote, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Any opposed? So motion continued. So thank you guys, appreciate it.
So they're gonna.
We're gonna be-
Okay, thank you.
You got a little too far ahead of yourself, so
About that?
it's okay. Application number 7 is conceptual for the same building to remove the historic door and transom along the storefront, install knee wall and storefront to match the remainder of the elevation, and apply an opaque film on the interior of the window to prevent visibility into space. Commissioners at the business meeting were not in support of removing and replacing the door to match the remainder of the storefront. HPO staff has advised retention of the door and installing drywall over the interior opening. Commissioners should offer design feedback to be used at a future meeting. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.11 standards for alteration, as well as the Victorian Village guidelines of storefront rehabilitation.
Thank you. Anything you guys want to just add about this?
Okay, the door in question used to be the main entry to the apartments upstairs before they were renovated. Now that door goes nowhere. Well, it's gonna go into what you see used to be the staircase, which is now just like we're assuming it's gonna be a janitor closet or something. So the door will have no purpose really, and it's not wide enough to use as a main entry or any entry, to be honest. So if we rebuild the storefront with a knee wall and whatever you guys approve as far as the windows and framing, we just wanted that to be consistent across the front and match that as well. Because there are new doors that go to the apartments that are all aluminum.
I was gonna ask the same thing.
There's a certificate of appropriate, it's for aluminum door.
Are they on the rear?
No, they're right there on the front.
See one black one.
Yeah, with the transom. It was approved because we originally proposed to get rid of the transom. And you guys said no, you wanted the transom, so. But yeah, that's all aluminum.
Was that, I'm just curious, because I think a lot of us are maybe new from that perspective too as well.
That was done 19.
So that the work, those doors that are, you know, the lighter color, all of those have been replaced.
No, it's the black one.
It's not the gotcha. Okay,
So that door and that transom's all aluminum.
okay. Got it.
so I think what's important to this is those two, go back to the front facade. So the full facade. These two things, whether they're used or not, both speak to the openings.
Right, that we're going up to a second.
And so I don't. Is that a door now or is that infilled also?
That's the door. That's the main apartment entry.
Okay, and this is the one you want to infill,
Correct.
right? I think it has to read like the rest of them. And I think even if you're not gonna use it, it needs to read as door.
Lock it, take the handle out for the wall behind it.
Yeah,
I would not support removing it
So you'd want to put another door in,
or leave that door.
the whole bottoms.
no, so
This
it,
rock.
so however you
Well,
treat,
replace the bottom rail of it.
however you treat these doors, this door should follow suit with the transom and everything.
So I think what you're trying to do is try to get an understanding of that door, our read on that door, and then you would apply that to whatever you're going to detail for the new application.
Correct.
That was just talking through.
Yep.
Okay, it's understandable. Any other thoughts about, so it seems like the door, maintaining the reading of the door is the goal.
Well, so then the other obvious question is, one is aluminum and the other one is gonna be,
I'd like to see the justification of the last.
There might not be due to who was staffing it.
Okay, because I don't understand.
You're
That
saying,
would have been approved.
you're saying this one is aluminum?
No, just the door.
Just the door is aluminum.
Yeah.
Just that door.
This is wood.
And then there's another aluminum door farther to the left that's not in the photo.
Oh, and the other.
That goes to the first building, yeah.
It may have been done by staff at that time and what they have done might not now be supported.
Okay.
With the spirit of all the work that's being done on that ground floor, would you maintain it or would you change that to whatever the spirit of the rest of the work that's being proposed?
The door?
Yes, sir.
Just put that in.
No, I just, just like, I mean, it's a fair question, right? Just
Yeah.
maybe at that time you were thinking that you were only gonna do this work and now it seems like what we're doing is proposing all of this work related to the ground floor. So is it, I should say, would it be beneficial to the project to be able to include that door in the new work that's being proposed?
This one, you're saying bring this back to read like the rest of them.
That's correct. Just since now the
Yeah,
proposed
since
work
the whole thing,
is
yeah, I get
the
it.
entire, ground floor work.
Yeah, it's like redoing a kitchen and saying, I gotta save the refrigerator. Really?
Yeah, and I know that, this has been done in steps, right? So, now coming back and so it just seems like it would be an opportunity, for the building, obviously, from that perspective, to just kind of, include or look at that, or look at the.
Yeah, I agree, that's a good call.
So was it a staff approval or was it came before the commission?
I would have to check.
I have a good, if we as a commission, whether it's us or not, approved it 4 years ago, I get it. I would love for it to be all the same. I want to make sure we're not
For sure.
putting them in a position where we say they have to do it.
And I'm
That's
not,
just not.
by any means, I don't think, I was
So we
always
should
trying to be very
follow the
extensive.
city code and guidelines, regardless of what the core
Right.
guidance from previous staff has been.
I would agree.
And I have been cleaning up after her since November 2019, and it's been a real mess.
Hit a nerve, okay?
It's okay for you to vent, it's okay for you to have those feelings. But we have to focus on our customers right now, and we have to get them through this. You wanna vent a little bit afterwards, I'll sit and listen. But in defense of the old commissioner here, this building has been through so many scenarios and so many things, and it's been one-offs, not holistically addressed. And so I'm just glad that we're looking at it the way we're looking at it now,
Agreed.
quite frankly.
Yep.
Because the stuff they did upstairs, the stuff they did in the back, it's all falling into place, so I'm,
Great building.
yes.
So that was more of a positive comment, right?
Yeah, I just don't want to replace those. I mean, they were very expensive.
Understand.
To only be 3 years old. And it's all on a fob system. It's all part of the security system. There's a lot that would go into me changing that again.
Understand.
But I'm open to whatever on the rest of the store.
I would look at it, because I would hate for maybe in the evaluation of the ground floor and the work that's being done, for that to come into play. So while you're kind of preparing an application, just, give some consideration to it.
Now, and I'm, to be the devil's advocate.
Yep.
The same for that solution, if you back it up. If all those storefronts are pristine, maybe that other door becomes just like the black aluminum door. So there's these two things in that rhythm.
Well, that was gonna be one of my thoughts too, is like,
I mean, let's
Yeah, for sure.
have an option.
For sure.
No.
Exactly.
I'm
No.
not, yeah,
Yeah, and I think what
You can get away.
I'm just saying and suggesting is that, just because that was old work,
we
don't necessarily ignore it. At least whatever the story that you're creating with this new work, give some consideration to that door. Whether it stays that door and there's a reasoning behind it, or if it's transitions into, being part of the new scope of work, just don't leave it behind because it was something that was done before, given that you're evaluating this new front. I think that's what I'm suggesting. That's all. Right. And I think we're all suggesting that. I'm hopeful. Right. Yep.
Look at look at the first floor in its entirety.
Perfect. Perfectly, more concisely said. So, Anything else before we motion to, oh, we don't have anything on this one. It's just conceptual.
It's conceptual.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys. Good luck.
All right. Let's do one more application. We're going to have a quick break.
Perfect.
So this will be at number 8, which is 41 West Third Avenue. Again, this is conceptual. It turns the existing enclosed south porch and add a new story and the lessons porch addition. New addition to include new elevator and small third floor dormer, and add a new rear addition to the existing rear addition to include a cement board siding and trim, windows and doors to be owned by Marvin, and foundation to be the split face block. I have included the commissioner comments from the September 9th, 2020 hearing. This was the last time this application was reviewed. It's been a little bit, but COVID had put a pause on everything for just about everybody. So different commissioners, which is why this is coming in again as conceptual. So the single-story side porch is present on the 1921 Sanborn map, though it's not original to the structure per the 1901 Sanborn. HBO staff does consider this portion of the house to be historic. The COA VP-15-12-9 approved the demolition of the historic porch due to crumbling foundation. This also included approval to enclose the porch. The COA indicated that the porch posts and trim elements were to be retained and reinstalled. HBO staff recommends retaining and reinstalling the existing rear windows if they're still in good condition. Any new windows should be from the approved windows list. And since this is conceptual, commissioners are to offer feedback for the applicant to use at a future hearing, and basis for recommendation is City 131-16.11. We use standards for alteration as well as 31-16.12, the standards for construction. And we have an extension too.
Yeah.
I'm just noting that for the record, so I also remembered write it down.
Okay. So go ahead and state your name, get you sworn in, sir.
Steve Hurt with Urban Order Architecture.
Do you agree to tell the truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Steve. All right, Steve.
So yes, we've been working on this house for a long time, and sort of the big changes from the last review based on the commissioners at the time was we were asked, the primary project here is to get an elevator in this building. And this seems like a logical place to sort of tuck it behind that bay. So when we showed it, when we were here before, the elevator was a little proud of the bay. So we turned it. So now it is recessed from the older bay in that photo. Then we extended the porch so that we could wrap around that elevator and get that to appear to be less important on this elevation. So the whole goal is to try to take this sort of big chunk of elevator thing and wrap stuff around it and push it back. So that was the goal between 2020 and now. And there was a comment about the rear windows not lining up, and we fixed that. And I don't know if we can reuse, which windows were you talking about reusing? The ones with the curved top?
Yes.
We may be able to. I don't really know what the condition of those windows is, but the goal is that we are bringing them back on the addition. So.
Porch windows?
These windows on this rear elevation. If you see the new elevations, we've shown windows like that. There's so many different eras of this house that it's like, which parts should we be addressing, and that those just seem interesting windows that it's a good thing to just use them again.
What is the materiality, Steve, of the the back addition that's being proposed? I'm just curious.
We're proposing a cement board siding.
On the back addition as well.
Yeah.
And then where did you guys land on the vertical for the elevator? Kind of want to say the tower of the elevator.
That'll be brick.
That's still brick.
And then the new porch will probably have recessed cement board panels.
So would that match the detailing of the one that's there?
Well, Kimberly, what date is on that elevation?
11/22.
There are new ones, hopefully, that you have.
It's gonna say,
Those are the old ones. We're planning on using the brackets or recreating those brackets. Those are all created in like 2009, maybe.
because the file hunter is the materials that you submitted. And then I've got two previous materials. One's for the previous COA and the 2020 materials.
That's an old site plan, an old elevation. That's the new elevation. So that is recreating the arched pieces and
So this would probably be just mixing files on the section license. Sorry about that.
yeah. So then there's also a new site plan that shows how that porch element projects past the elevator piece and the elevator sits back behind the bay. So that's not the right site. Yeah, we have a lot of drawings of this. That's the right floor plan. There it is. So, yeah, I'm mostly here to make sure that with the changing of the commission, we're still on board, and if there are other comments that we should be addressing.
I think that's why I was trying to prompt it. We had a little bit of discussion on materiality at one time and stuff like that too, if I remember correctly. And so I was just trying to get that out there as well. So,
Yes, and so I didn't get the answer completely. So the new two-story porch would have a similar look to what's currently there?
Yes.
Okay.
but materiality is not brick though, right?
Well, I'm referring
What's the
more to
question?
green.
Porch, what is green now?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but the elevator shaft would be brick.
Yeah,
Is the elevator serving the attic? Is that why it's?
yeah, that's why we have that dormer on there. So there's also a new stair. Currently, the stair goes from the old part of the house, which is the I'm not exactly sure. I think that there's an Italianate house under a front addition. But the stair currently goes from the part of the house with the dental mold up backwards through an attic to get to this space. And we wanted to be able to access it directly from the back stair. And we needed to get from the elevator into that space. So we needed to bump that up a little bit.
I think a section through that porch, a section through the elevator, long term would be helpful. I mean, for conceptual, we don't necessarily need it, but so we understand. Because there's a lot going on right there.
Yes, and that would be part of, obviously, we submit that.
Anything else, Melinda, that you think that you would just need?
Just confirmation on the height of the elevator shaft, because, you know, depending on what, if it's a through elevator or if it's a lula, how tall that needs to be, because it's really tall now. I would hate for it to get in.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's a real elevator because we're going from the basement to the third floor, and we can't do that with like a Lulu lift or something. This is we are talking to the same elevator people that did the elevator in the building next door that, I don't know what the address is, but 30, no, I'm gonna say 39. Um,
362 as well. Makes sense. No other comments for it. Very helpful in terms of being able to reintroduce the project, given the team is new, so very helpful. Is there anything else, Melinda, or anything you're thinking? Hey.
We good.
That's it. Thank you, Steve.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you. Hopefully we'll start moving on this.
No problem. Thank you, sir.
Let me just go over just to see if like, whether you can find anything that's not working.
Because I tried to date everything.
Yes, I'll take a look.
Thank you.
Right. I'm going to request a quick 5-minute break.
Yeah.
So the applicants, we will be back and resume shortly, probably right about 6.
Thank you.
Just good, thanks for switching my washing machine. Very confused, maybe, but I don't think it's.
Like really bad. We like my washing machine doesn't on life.
The same thing is, I thought that was a ridiculous feature. I am
Oh, no,
completely addicted to that.
my husband and I talked about that, but like, why, this was before this existed, like plus years. Why did dryers and washers not have Wi-Fi? Here we are, they do know.
Why? Because the electronics or the board, the motherboard, which is always replaceable, catches on fire when your house burns down because you were too lazy to go home and turn your dryer on.
Yeah.
I don't think I can start it remotely. It pings my watch when the load is done, which is good because it's in the basement and I don't hear it.
If you're old enough, never, ever turn your dryer on unless you are home.
I know.
Yeah, that's a good.
That's why I'm confused why the washer just said it was done and my husband should be at the dance studio with the 2 kids because they're in dance class.
I mean, some of these new appliances, you need a PhD.
Yeah, it's supposed to make it easier.
It's
isn't it?
supposed to make it easier, but, like, come on, folks, really? 22 cycles?
Yeah, no,
Let's-
that's.
You don't, that's this, you don't.
Let's be honest. I mean,
I use like.
this isn't, right.
Well, the really cool thing is
It's-
now, like, if I set the wash, then when I take it out, it talks to the dryer and tells the dryer what to set it to.
And my
I'm also from.
My washer and
And that's
dryer.
dryer was.
He's got a ringer down in the basement with it.
No, they're under the stairs, so there's limited. All these washers are about this high, but really, it's just icing. They really are
Yeah.
slow,
Yeah, they put them on the pedestal.
but they put them on pedestals and they make them look bigger, and
Yeah.
you're like, for what?
Yeah.
Well, so you're not bending over to.
I think
go
that's,
on.
yeah, I think that's the main reason.
The dryer we just got rid of a year ago was the one my parents had bought when I was like.
Last forever.
Well,
Yeah.
but you know what's really interesting about that? That's,
I
they
don't
didn't have planned obsolescence in the business plan back then.
Yeah.
They really did last. And actually, there were manufacturers that built them now, probably 1 or 2 manufacturers. They changed the front.
Sticker on the
panel
front,
or
yeah.
The front,
Yeah.
and it's just,
Yeah, I don't expect to get 30 years.
Yeah,
it's sad, but
your kids will not be using that.
it's kind of sad that, that you're lucky to get 12. 12 is probably like the outlier.
I'd be shocked.
And then all these new dryers are also, that heat pump technology where they don't have to be vented outside,
Oh,
but your clothes really don't get dry.
yeah. Minor problem.
Is that a big deal?
Don't you also have clotheslines?
It's condensing dryer. No, condensing dryers are important though, because when you're putting apartments into Lebec, one, you're not renting your dryer bed all the way to the roof, which doesn't really even exist, and there's no way in the world you're putting it through the terrace house.
Yeah, well, what's the place in Grandview?
You have to be more.
The high rise in
Oh, the.
Summit Chase.
Yes.
Summit Chase, there are just a handful of condos that are grandfathered that have washer and dryer hookups. The rest of the people have to go to the
Oh,
basement.
really?
Yeah.
It's a no-go.
That's not the same.
Yeah, really hard.
Get enough booster fans.
Well, the bigger thing is you can't combine the vents,
Right.
so.
Yeah,
if
you can't.
You have 10 going up, all stacked, you actually have, you know, the lowest level, you have 1, then you have 2, then you have 3, then you have 4, and all of a sudden it's taking up something the size of your bathtub.
Yeah, but, you know, the vent steps back at some point. So
Which
you-
is the problem. It's one that.
Can't you go to the roof at that point?
And you know what's interesting? I walked through that when it was when it was an insurance company. I think there were 5
Shared
office
window.
suites that had fireplaces that were
Oh,
real
cool.
fireplaces.
Oh,
They had to figure out, I have no idea how they glued them, but they were, which is crazy when you think of a building like that.
You know, Clinton Elementary, in the space that is now the cafeteria, was originally the kindergarten room. It had a wood burning fireplace, because, you know, kindergartners and wood burning fireplaces are a good.
Complete that.
Yeah.
Better than no
Oh, that's wild. I didn't know.
Teach them not to mess with fire.
It's on the original drawing.
They're 11:30. I don't know.
We put back a fireplace mantle, it does not actually, it is.
So that's crazy. That is.
What is it? What year was the building?
Yeah, tough to survive.
No, it was like the old pen in Mansfield, you know, that basic building where the cells were, it was a large building with fireplaces. And then inside was the birdcage, which was the cell, and those fireplaces heated.
I found a 1930s site plan of part of that property in our files at the office when I was going through things, and put things away. That's one old building we've never worked on, and it's a hand-drawn 1930s drawing. So I contacted their architect, like, this, because I don't know why that,
I think, are we about ready to see that?
Wow.
we have 90.
Back in order, guys? Good now?
Bring it in, guys.
Yeah, real quick, well, that's what, was it linen? What was it?
Yeah. It's in the-
Stop. So there you go.
All right, those were.
We're back.
Training walls.
So moving forward with number 9, 1156 Neal Avenue. This is the conceptual application to install a 3-foot decorative fence, 2 feet back from the existing retaining wall. Proposed decorative fence is to have low perennial plantings behind the wall and in front of the fence. Install a paper patio in the front yard, and install a water feature, as well as new landscape plantings. Commissioners at the business meeting requested a massing drawing of the front elevation from the sidewalk to top of the house. They wanted to see the fence, plantings, and foundation in contrast with the overall house. They would like the massing to include both houses next door for a sense of overall context. Commissioners also noted that they found the proposed fountain too overwhelming for the space. The commission noted that they would be more supportive of a pea gravel sitting area than the proposed pavers, and they also request current photos as well. A scaled measured elevation drawing of the details of how the proposed retaining walls tie together with the existing was also requested, and I will note that the retaining wall portion of the application was previously approved. So I understand why we're asking, but really not relevant to this application.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I didn't check before this meeting, so I wanted to let everybody know. The commission does need to clarify, excuse me, if they support it, why the fence brought back from the retaining wall does not constitute as a 6-foot fence, as kind of previously established with that iron fence right up front, just so if we do end up approving this down the road, there is the reasoning there. HBO staff does not support the front patio areas. These are not a common feature within the district per City Code 3116.13A. Historically, front seating areas would have been areas such as porches. The commissioners should offer some feedback that can be utilized at future meetings, since this is conceptual. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.13, the standards for site improvement, as well as City Code 31.16.11, the standards for alteration, the Victorian Village guidelines on fences and yards.
Thank you, Kimberly. Can you guys state your names and get you sworn in?
Adam May.
Christina Lishneski.
Do you both
Oh,
agree to
sorry.
tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Awesome. Good. Turn it over to you guys.
Yeah, so we had some other previously developed ideas for the project that we hadn't brought to the commission just because we were so focused on other elements of the project earlier on. So we just kind of, after our appeals process, wanted to kind of get everything out in the open that we were thinking. I appreciate all of the feedback and, you guys take another look at this. And we really were just here to kind of get as much clarification and feedback about, what we might be able to do involving any of, all or any of these elements going forward, so that when we do apply, obviously we can, be as close to what you guys would find acceptable, whatever that may be. We saw the feedback. This time here, I didn't have time to put any section drawings together for the submittal, but I'm happy to do that. I wanted to make sure I understood one basically from the street through the house, going east to west, and then also one going north to south to show the two neighboring houses. Is that what you guys are, I guess, looking for as far as sections to kind of show context with the two houses, but then also relation from the street to the house? Okay.
I think it was really kind of, if you think about if I'm building a structure in front, that structure and it's how big is that structure as it relates to the existing homes and such, and just being a little bit sensitive to, those existing properties. And then what will be the impact, if any, with this new thing?
Is the fountain something, as drawn, we had originally started with a larger fountain and scaled this back some time ago. It seemed like from the feedback, it was something pretty much leaning toward, hey, that's a no. Is that kind of the general consensus of that fountain? As I think there was a detail sheet in there of it, which I know I don't have the section. It might be hard to, look at it and scale to the context. And if not, that is, fine. We just wanted, they have maybe not a 3-tier fountain, but a more traditional style fountain with a circular fountain with a basin in the pictures, and see if something like that, what's existing, would be acceptable if something in this style is not.
Makes sense. Do you want to go ahead and keep finishing your thoughts, and so that way we don't ping pong?
Oh,
back
sure.
from it?
And so we did try to adjust the fence location and bring it back off the wall, kind of to try to work with some of the requests earlier on in the hearings of last year. So we did try to do that as well. The patio was always an idea we had. I tried to, arrange the pattern and colors to maybe be representative of kind of like a Victorian tile. But I understand that there's not a lot of those, maybe any in the neighborhood. So if that's just.
Actually, sorry, our next door neighbor, his front porch has like a tile like this. It's definitely original. So that's where we kind of got the idea from it.
Yeah, that was something we decided on early on to try to be representative, but if that was gonna be, hey, paver patio in general, kind of a thumbs down, then we were gonna see maybe about like the option of like a flagstone with the gravel joints or something like that, if that would be more acceptable. I know Christina, just from talking to her, it isn't into the idea of gravel or aggregate only, so we didn't know if there's any wiggle room as far as the materiality of that could fit in a little better and maybe not be a solid, patio of paver, but something in between, if that would be acceptable. I think that was basically it, yeah.
So let's just open up for comments. So we want to talk about, the retaining wall. Let's talk about the retaining wall first. So retaining wall, again, I think we were just trying to get clarity. Are we okay from the retaining wall? I think all of that has been clarified.
More so with the fence, because the retaining walls are approved.
Because the retaining wall's been approved, right? So, so let's maybe talk about the fence then. So the fence in its current location is set back. Any concerns with the arrangement on the fence and its proposed height?
Anything about it blocking the house as previously discussed when it was further forward, or does this create enough kind of a recess that's not going to be a problem?
I would say the setback changes the eye line from the someone standing in the sidewalk. And that's the difference.
Right, and that's even with the little plantings there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree that that's kind of always what we were encouraging was to.
For sure.
You know, particularly from that perspective, walking down the street, that it's not so imposing and not limiting the view of the house. I would still, here in conceptual review, 2.5 feet worth of fence. I think the 3 is maybe, the 3 on the 3.6 is still, it's borderline, it's pushing it, but, I don't know if it's a deal breaker.
It's one of those kind of in between things, at least with the current patio layout, trying to make sure we had enough room for planting material that could be allowed to get to a certain height. And so, but with maybe a little patio adjustment, we could move that back if that would, change your guys' opinion one way or the other. I just know that, I think Christina's very patient, but I want to make sure that when we come back, we can, be as close to what you guys are looking for as possible. So if another 6 inches is going to make a difference, certainly gives more planting opportunities. And
I think that's where that section through there, so we can really kind of see that, will help with that determination.
Are you talking height or distance back?
I'm talking height.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you meant distance back from the
Yeah.
wall, so the 2 feet, not as.
So, because the difference now is that it's not fall protection where it was before, right? Now it's just enclosing the yard. So the height, whatever minimum height you need to no longer apply. I think.
And our daughter has grown last year. So.
That's concerned. Is there a feeling though, if, for instance, in that evaluation, is it warranted to do the 36 and pull back 6 inches? Is that what's being,
No,
in terms
so
of
I'm still talking height.
You're still talking height
Right,
only?
right.
Okay, I just want to be sure too as well. Okay.
But they do go hand in hand. I mean, it is kind of the initial ruling on this, and I think still what we're trying to evaluate is, and it's a little bit of a judgment call at what point, and that's where that, again, that section study to understand from the street to the house, what that impact truly is.
Right.
My gut is that maybe it's still a little too tall, but I think that section will kind of help explain for all of us to be able to kind of give our.
Maybe worst case on that, we submit it as is with the sections and say, hey, a little smaller, and we're okay with that type of deal. Okay.
And I think maybe more importantly for today, I think, at least from my opinion, the fact that we are moving it back, we are in much better alignment with expectation and what, I think it is doable to have a fence there now that we've moved it back. It's just kind of that nuance of final height.
Getting the right direction, height versus distance back. That's all we're trying to do here.
Thanks for clarifying, guys. Thank you. Very helpful. So, fence I think we've taken care of now, so let's just kind of talk about, maybe I'm going to use the paver first. Let's do the patio first. So patio, so materiality, I think, is a patio and such as we were talking through. So can we?
So we had an interesting case last time, and it was on Park Avenue. And something was brought up similar to this, where they wanted to animate the front of their home. And basically, traditionally you would have some kind of walking garden, which would be gravel with a fountain, very symmetrical, even though your lot might not be symmetrical. This with the pavers and the built fountain, it's sort of becoming like a room, not a garden. And I think that was the major discussion that we walked around.
So I do want to offer a point of clarification, because we do have the historic photo of here, and it was just a sloping front lawn. The grade has changed over time, but are you talking about like the walking gardens just being a Victorian feature?
I'm talking just like we talked with the park people. Their place used to be a sloping yard. It has a retaining wall. We talked about how that front piece would be used, whether it's elevated 6 feet or whether it's flat to the sidewalk. It would be a walking garden, something that was visual, not something that was.
But they historically haven't been found here. We do have an 1801 photo that it was just lawn, so.
The 1910 photo of Park Street, it was probably lawn also. That's what we're saying.
If that.
So that would, so depending on your level of income, you would either have a fancy walk with boxwoods and pebbles and all kinds of things, or you would have a sloped lawn that had grass on it.
Well, but it's also the size of the lot, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but even if you had a small lot, you would try to engage that because you would want to up your lot in life.
And so the guideline recommendation of not having a traditional patio out the front yard is kind of the piece at play here. To Jeff's point, if this were a garden in your front yard, I don't think we would second guess it at all. So this is a space that feels much more garden-esque in terms of its scale and its function. That's what we're trying to achieve. And so to be sitting in a garden, absolutely. So there's some nuance there to how you define and design that space there's a scale to it that needs to feel more of the landscape, more of garden, less of hardscape patio.
Even like in terms of like the square footage of the space, I mean, if, is it more about the materiality of the patio or more about like the scale of the space of patio? Cause I think we could easily get.
We weren't actually making this to sit out there, really. The fountain is honestly soothing to us and our neighbors. Both of them like the sound of it because it blocks out the water, and our current fountain is cracked. It's unfixable. So I can understand what you're saying, but you want it to look more like a garden, like just like at a museum or something.
I know you're against gravel, but it would be like a pea gravel or something.
We have something in our front yard currently. It's not very attractive.
And that's
The gravel, yeah.
That's where I was trying to make sure I understood if it was a materiality thing of say, hey, no matter which way you slice this patio, we're not interested in allowing pavers in general, prefer gravel. If that is what I'm hearing, then that's okay. If it's more of a scaled back paver, we could adjust and go with that. But if not, is there some in between to where we could maybe look at like a flagstone, a more natural material with like gravel joints to kind of.
I think if it feels like, the flagstone that starts to feel like a path through the garden.
Yeah,
I think that becomes more appropriate and the joints in between those, if that becomes gravel or that maintains lawn, I think there's some flexibility there, but I think
That's the direction we went with on Park Street.
That's much more in line with kind of
like can be permeable.
Yep.
Cool. No, that's very helpful. I appreciate it.
And the fountain piece, I think the scale of what's there now is much more appropriate than the scale proposal. I also would caution that, the one that's being proposed is very one-sided. And so what is the backside of that? What is the view, because that's kind of a neighborly thing there that you're kind of creating a wall there that they're seeing. So I think you just be big, careful about what that vantage point is.
And I was happy with the fountain design. We did scale it back quite a bit to where the actual vertical element was more concentrated in the center where it actually rose up. So we at least tried to be respectful of that because I understand that you don't want to just have this masonry wall right on the edge of the property. But we also thought about just omitting it from this discussion entirely because we didn't think it was really gonna fly. It was trying to create, yes, something for the ambiance of the noise, of course, but also, to try to make something that was a scale that would be able to have the features that we could.
I like the Bride's Garden at Columbus, the conservatory. So that's basically what this was designed.
Kind of the inspiration of
from that standpoint. So that's all. Yeah.
We tried to keep it all pretty low except for that back part, kind of showing how it's just that 1.5 foot height, except for that 4'6" section in the middle, which does rise to a little over 4'6". And I'm sure a section would help for that. I just, if it was something that was, hey, we get what you're saying, but this is not going to be considered, then maybe, we just look at some, like a 3-tiered fountain or something a little more of a classic design to be incorporated instead. It was a design we had fun with and tried to be respectful of the, of the feel of the area, but yeah, in the end, it's up to you guys.
I mean, just for me, I just think that that's what kind of prompted the idea of understanding of how big is this?
Sure.
I think we were looking at the overall height. We said 4'6", 4'8", okay. Now, what is that 4'8"? How does that respond to, or how does that impact the adjacency? And so we were saying, hey, is there a possibility of not necessarily look at the landscape? Can we look at the low massing of the homes?
Sure.
To get some sense of me as a pedestrian, and at the same time, the impact of those. What is the scale really of this thing?
Yeah, when you look at the foundation, you're going, whoa.
Oh, it feels big when you look at it by itself. And so I think that's what kind of prompted those other requests. It still feels big to me. I don't really like the kind of one-sided nature. If there was something in the back of the home, I think I would feel a little bit more comfortable. And again, I haven't studied the site plan, the massing, things of that nature, but it just seems like it's not being responsive in terms of being, something that's a kind of I'm going to say an amenity that can be offered, and that's just based upon its shape,
Sure.
from that perspective.
No,
So,
Do you think the fountain that we currently have, which we did not purchase, is that even like consistent with Victorian?
I love that fountain, and
You do?
the next question I was gonna ask is.
It's cracked. I mean, it's not fixable, I'm sorry. We tried to fix it and reseal it, but.
some of that is, how it's constructed, all concrete.
It's old.
No
yeah.
waterproof.
But I mean, I love that fountain. I think
It's simple, it's the right scale, it's
Okay.
appropriate.
More open, I guess, as far as.
More open, any way you
neighbors
look at it,
being
it's incorporated in however and wherever your perspective is.
We love the fountain too.
And
Sorry that it's
because
not-
of its size, it can make a lot of noise.
Yes.
mean, I
And
would-
actually, both our neighbors really like the fountain. So
Yeah.
just bring that up.
I would strongly encourage trying to see what else you can do and more in that vein versus what's proposed. I think you're gonna have a lot easier time getting us to all agree on that, versus, kind of the one-sided sort of.
Sure, yeah, it's a little exclusive to that space and it makes sense.
What's proposed isn't a bad design. It's just-
Yeah, I don't take it that way or anything. I should.
The only other thing I would mention, looking at, it looks like there's a bench right now, that the back is to the street, just looking about that and thinking about that. Just especially that, if it's furniture, it's not really a purview, but you have a fence, then, well, you have a retaining wall, then a hedge, then a fence, then something that's even possibly taller than that. It's all these walls.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess a little bit more of a placeholder, but I do get what you're saying, and that was opened up more in that area to allow for furniture, so yeah, maybe again, kind of closing it off a little bit versus.
But, do you want to sit there, people watching, which means facing the other way, or do you want to sit there and stare at your house? Which maybe you do.
No, honestly, we'll sit in I'll be honest, we'll sit in the backyard, but depending on I walk to work every day, so this is for me to I go in the front yard, multiple times a day. And it's really a visual thing. And currently our front yard looks just pretty awful, honestly, so we would like to improve it, so.
Yeah, we thought about the idea of photo
Yeah,
opportunities for the kids and stuff and like areas for.
Yeah,
pictures
yeah,
and
pictures, sure.
Framing it a little bit, but yeah, it makes sense.
And we're flexible on all
And
that.
if some, if some permanent seating or semi-permanent seating out there, again, think the guard desk, and I would encourage maybe a backless, something that you can facing either direction. You're not turning your back to anything in that technically. But I would also challenge any permanent seating out there at all versus bringing a bistro chair or something out there at times.
Not helpful.
is there anything else that you guys need any feedback on that would help you?
I don't
No,
think so
I don't
unless
think so.
you guys think of something.
Yeah, I think that answers all of our questions and try to get some for the June meeting, hopefully.
Yeah. Is there any kind of, just since we're here, if the plantings all that stuff is okay?
What
Is it
it-
on
I hadn't labeled them or
Oh,
anything like that. I mean, is that something we even go through at the
Guys will-
commission as far as like plant specifics? Is that something you guys want to see for like planting plans is something you?
Yeah, we will, we will want to see the species called out.
If there are any unusual ones, pictures of it.
No, not that I can remember. It's been a while since I looked at the actual plantings. But no, it was all, at least in my repertoire, pretty standard stuff. Yeah, mix it of flowering deciduous shrubs and perennials, mainly some grasses. It was nothing too crazy.
Yeah, just label them, which would be perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
You too.
Are you here for 348 bottles? Awesome. Come right on up. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't reading a staff report. I think if you were here, you were approved this one.
Yeah.
So this is the conceptual review, 2.84-inch thick concrete slab with concrete footers in the corners for stability. Construct a new 10-foot by 18-foot pavilion made from treated pine and stained cedar tone. There will be a 6 8-inch square support post fastened to the concrete slab, black metal brackets. Pavilion will have a Premier Legacy panel flat steel roof with a 1 to 12 pitch falling from west to east in the color black. The finished interior pavilion ceiling will be tongue and groove pine stained a cedar tone color and install a rear privacy wall attached to the pavilion post. On the east side between the houses, the existing fence is located about 6 inches behind the proposed pavilion and a wood privacy screen, and the screen would be 9-inch above the concrete slab. Commissioners at the business meeting requested that choices on the cut product sheet for the pavilion be marked. They also noted that the proposed design is a little too rustic and they considered it suburban. Out of the designs on the cut product sheet, they found the Highgate design was most appropriate, but would not support the vinyl material. There was concern about proximity to the lot line in the original house, was noted as well, and a scaled measured site plan was requested. Commissioners also requested a more holistic view of work being proposed. They requested that the proposed fence repair replacement be included in the application. HBO staff did contact BZA just to confirm there was not a permit needed for the structure, and they did not indicate one was needed. There is an approval on file for Pergola, approximately in the same location, but the COA was not issued because additional material had not come in. Commissioners should offer design feedback since this is conceptual for the applicant to use at a future meeting. Basis for the staff recommendation is City Code 3116.13, the standards for site improvement, City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, as well as City Code 3116.12, the standards for new construction.
Thank you. Can you state your name, get you sworn in, sir?
Howard J. O'Malley.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Perfect.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, yeah, so I'm trying to get feedback on this design pavilion. I didn't, the comments that you were mentioning, Kimberly, I hadn't read those yet. So I'm understanding that maybe you think it's too rustic. One of the changes is this is a rough cut cedar, and the material I'm using is smooth treated pine that will be stained a cedar tone, so it will not have that rustic, rough feel the way that the picture is showing there. This is from the Home Garden Show, and it's essentially exactly the design that I'm looking at, except the one that I'm doing, because it's pine, has to have, basically that exact size, has to have a post in the middle. So there's 6 posts instead of 4 that are in this photo submitted. So the design of this, and I don't know if you're mentioning, I did have a pavilion like this approved in the past. I just never built it because the design did not work once I got with the contractors and started building it. I started looking at how it was going to construct. If you look at my backyard, maybe you could page back to there. The rear door is elevated, obviously, and when you come out of that side door, this pavilion is right to the right. Okay. So this design allows for it not to be weird. When you come out the back door, it has to be high on one side and sloping down this way. The hipped roof pavilion I had approved in the past, you either have to put it way up in the air,
very strange. Or when you come out of that door, it's like chin high. So because of that door and the elevation, which I cannot change, this design is the only one that works. You know, in my opinion, I've looked at all of them for many years. And, you know, when you come out of that door, you really have to have something high enough up so that you're not looking at the roof of, you know, like a standard hipped roof pavilion that I've seen other people in Victorian Village have. So the design's a little modern. But again, for me and the way the backyard works and for us to utilize that back corner, which was just mud essentially, because I can't get grass to grow there. There was no paver patio there at all. You know, this pool is probably 50 or 60 years old. That's in the ground there. And yeah, so that's another look at it. But so I can never, basically, if you see the edge of the existing concrete, you can barely see it, but that corner, there's a concrete, you know, like everybody else has around their pool that's been there for a long time. This new concrete slab would mesh up right against that, you know, to be level. You know, before I was talking about putting this pavilion in the ground, I thought that's how you would do it, is put the posts, you know, in the ground, but I was advised that it's a lot better to actually put it on top of, to attach it to a concrete slab. And they told me to try to, you know, reinforce underneath those because it is a heavy, these are 8x8 posts, so it'll be fairly heavy. So that was that's what prompted putting in the concrete slab and not, they basically told me that this would deteriorate the wood, you know, inside there and wouldn't last, similar like how the fence does over time. So that's what I'm trying to get as feedback. It's got a metal roof on it, which I've seen other metal roofs. I know not on people's actual house, but on you know, door overhangs and things like that. There is a shingle option. It costs more and looks weird to me. So I like the metal roof. I can understand that it might look a little rustic. I just think that this rough cut cedar is what makes that look rustic. You know, versus, and so anyway, looking for feedback.
Thank you, sir. Very helpful, very helpful. So, no necessarily particular order, just kind of things jumped out at me as, I think that was helpful in terms of clarification of what we were looking at in terms of materiality and in terms of the options of the pavilion itself. Materiality, the roof, as well as materiality of the structure itself. Concrete slab. I think we were talking about what is the materiality of that slab or what should it be. I think those were the two, and then understanding of the fence and then the condition that this will create adjacent to the fence. I think there was a thought about maintaining the space that was between the fence and maybe the up back that was on this pavilion. I think that was kind of talked about too as well, just from looking at the drawings and the product data. So those are the things that I remember.
Yeah, I would agree. So I get the structure. I think the vocabulary. So what if it's painted? What if there's lattice or something instead of, so it softens it up and it becomes more of a garden piece versus shed-like?
Well, I mean, there's still, so the massing of it is still the part of that issue, right? I mean, it's just, you know, you mentioned 8x8, it's chunky. That's a great way to describe it. You've got exposed metal brackets, you know, things that are more country rustic. You know, even just the cutting of the timbers on the end all kind of imply that. Totally understand you know, the comment about the roof. But I think that, yeah, it's still, I mean, you can dress it up, but I don't know if you'll get it to where you're trying to get it to.
Yeah, and I can, you know, this is they come and build this, the Amish guys come and build this, but they've got, you know, you can flip through the book and see the designs they have. So only have so much leeway. I can probably, I see what you mean, how the sides kind of stick out a little bit. There might be something they could do there, but I'm working with this.
This is interesting. So you know what the Amish would use this for? And I've seen it millions of times. No, 2 lawnmowers could be backed into there, or your tractor or something, and it's a typical outbuilding.
Yeah, I think when I put the back wall on it, so that makes it look more like an outdoor room. That's why I proposed to do that, and I do get that the fence would be 10 inches behind it, so it's double dipping as far as, but it defined the room a little bit more to me. It is obviously an extra expense to put the wall on, put this, vertical slatted wall on it, but to me, it made it look a little bit more like an outdoor room.
Looking at the previous application, the new garage, is that something that's still long-term in play?
It's so there's the pool back there and the garage is on the pool. So the design of that, which is a long time ago, but you guys have it. Okay, so there's expensive glass doors that accordion back to try to make this whole thing work. And so and I basically scrapped that because the design was wrong with, if I am going to do a garage like that, it needs to be, that was a hipped roof. It looks strange there, but it needs to be more of an A-frame where I have a lofted space above it that I can use for either storage or even finish it. So it's still, I still have the idea, but I now have one child and another one on the way, so I don't know how long we're going to stay. So,
And I bring it up just in context of maybe challenging the location of this pergola structure that, as a garden structure, it would feel better to me towards the back of the lawn on the other side of the pool, but also understand kind of.
I would want to put it back there in case I would put parking spaces. They're building a giant apartment complex across the street from my house. So I don't know what the parking is going to be like. And so I might need to just put parking spaces back there. I don't want to, but if we can't park any longer, then we'll have to do something. But that would be a different, obviously, conversation. So I didn't want to spend any money back there until I decided what I was going to really do. So
thank you.
Yeah.
So where are we at?
I don't know, I was trying to figure out like.
Talked about a whole bunch of things, but.
I know, I was trying to figure out, for one element, it's like you have the door. So is this element a garden element by itself? And it doesn't address the door? Or is there some way to
So
address the?
architecturally, this is how I see it.
You know what I mean?
There's a building, there's a garage building. If it's bigger than that, there's a pool house. So a pool either has one side that's dedicated to seating. It could be lawn or garden on the other side. So that's kind of where you're building. The thing that kind of mucks this up is the connection and closeness to the house that you're trying to obtain throws the whole thing off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the architectural conundrum.
Yeah, it is, exactly.
That's.
Because I want to go back and grab the door, right? Because of its proximity.
Yep.
And then, I know you even feel it, from that perspective, because you talk about the heights and how uneasy you would feel.
Yeah, that's why I didn't build the other one.
Because you come out, you see your roof,
Yeah.
step down, what's the point?
The other one was easier to approve clearly, I guess, because we didn't have this, type of issue.
That close to the house.
Yeah, it was pretty close though. It was
attached.
the other one.
Previous one.
Oh, it wasn't attached. Yeah, I didn't remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark Ford.
No, it was a hipped, just like a standard hipped roof.
So can we pull up that
pavilion?
Looked like it butted up against.
Yeah, what we might have.
See that?
We were doing so much at the time with the garage, that you're right. We might have put flagging on it. Yeah.
Oh, even have enough ones, so, yeah.
Yeah, that looks weird. That looks.
Significantly smaller.
Oh, it's got flash.
When was that approved?
A couple years ago.
It
I was
could,
gonna say, we got the date up on the first page, I'm sure if you want to go.
if you see what here.
2018.
Wow.
Yeah, a couple years ago. I think you're here.
No, it's good.
Yeah, look, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so let's go to the drawing. Yeah, here's my signature.
I mean, it's like, that we're deliberately trying to, it's awkward relationship to the house, and that's what we're trying to.
Yeah, but I needed to, I want it to be usable space,
And Jeff, you brought up kind of the pool is an interesting thing with this property. This thing is kind of, in my mind, addressing the pool, and
Right.
I almost see something that's much more long and linear trellis kind of garden-like thing that follows.
Well, so I'm also blocking the section 8 next door that's 3 stories high that looks right down into my property. So that's why there's the solid roof. It's a privacy issue.
Would you still be able, I guess, understandable. So I think if this thing was not necessarily so, I should say, room-like in that kind of end, if it was more linear and you still had some sense of cover, but it was more linear and it addressed more, I want to say, the fence line.
So,
Yeah, I think it could still have solid cover,
but thinner, you're saying.
Yeah, more long and narrow, the kind of, it's about the pool, it's not necessarily trying to shove it into this corner between the pool.
And you want it more away from the house, huh?
I think it would just offer you a little bit more flexibility.
It is a weird setup though, because I think maybe we're not getting the context of, see how thin the yard is on that side? So when you, put these posts and they're not on that concrete pad, it is, you're really narrowing the walkway there. It doesn't make, like, I had the idea of this being an outdoor room where we could have seating underneath it that was comfortable, and a shelter, not that I'm gonna be out there in the rain or anything, but that, my patio furniture and things like that could sit underneath there. And that was sort of the use case versus like just something like kind of walk under. But because if we get it that thin, I really can't fit anything under it. I would say that might be 8 feet between the fence and that concrete slab there. So if I really thin it up, it's just kind of, I might as well just put an umbrella over there.
So can we go back to that original drawing for just a second, the transit, because this is the big thing. And so this was the transition from above to ground level. And I'm not so sure that that's not something that, if you're gonna do longer and linear and a little bit more rough, I think you're still, and you want it to the house, there's gonna have to be that transition element, and I don't know what that is. Either it doesn't touch,
or it does,
or
either it's farther away or it attaches,
or there's a design intent in that piece that connects that makes sense for the other piece. And I don't know.
And that's maybe a better look at it, because the wider part, like you said, was, if I understand, I'm trying to remember how we had this, but, because I forgot, I gave up on it, but again, the weird part was when you come out of the back door, that side roof there was like cheek high or something almost. And if it's not, it looks like it's really on stilts kind of thing, like really tall. Even if I did 8x8 posts, it looked really weird. So I think what we were doing there, the wider part was attached, and then I think what he had was going smaller and more linear, like thinner off attached to. I think that, if I'm looking at that right, or maybe I'm not. I had an architect that designed that. But either way, I suppose that's not.
Yeah, because what's really interesting about this piece. Really wasn't that wide to put anything under.
Right, but I don't know how far that was out.
Or was that running the whole length to the garage?
No, not the whole length. That fat piece was coming like almost to the pool the way I have this now.
Right.
And then that little extension was coming out, but not that far. Not all the way. It's a long way between that and the house.
It's just the end piece there.
Yeah. Oh, it's
just, it's a couple feet.
Yeah, and it must have been just as a design element, really. So it wasn't very far.
It was because of the scale, because it was so tall.
Right.
And I think
To bring it down.
bring it down.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
To try and do that. And it had to be so tall because of the that door being there, So this is probably the same height, but then it gets down pretty quick. And then, we put the other.
So try to bring this home a little bit here, but so, I think we got a few things, and I'm kind of taking your.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks.
So, the location of whatever it is, right, is, where it fits in the yard. And trying to make that work, architecturally, as you guys have been discussing. I think the structure itself, right, we need the cut sheets of what this is, what it's really gonna look like, what the submittals would look like, right? What the color is, what the size of the posts are, what walls you're doing, enclosing or not, what roof materials. I think we had that in the
Right in there.
meeting minutes from before. So getting us those details, knowing that we think it's too rustic adds.
Well, I mean, the details are that it's pine, it's not this, and I guess is that still too rustic as well?
Well, I think the sizes of it and the massing, yes, and the brackets and the sticking out of the timbers and all, yes.
8x8 posts more heavy timber framing than Victorian.
Correct.
So you'd rather see what, a 4x4 post or is 4x6?
Yes, I mean, I think 4x4 would,
It just looks so chintzy to have one this big.
Well, it's not just the size of the post, like even the cut sheet has a post and beam seller, has straight ones, it has arch ones, it has square ones, it has round ones. Some that have a little more detail to them and aren't just heavy timber construction framing. It's the heavy timber-esque framing that is making it looks like it belongs out in a barnyard.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. But also, what about the design of having the, 112 sloped roof and that?
I would say, show us, right? So if I get why you want it, I'm willing to consider that. I still think it's a little off, but I'm willing to take a look at it if it's well, I'll take a look at it regardless, but I think it'd be more palatable with the smaller features and that. So if you're still looking at wanting to do the shed roof, and with smaller features, I'd say bring it to us so we can take a look at it. And make a call on it at that point. So I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I just,
And it might be finished, the edge might be finished.
Yeah.
By something.
Wrapped in something?
I mean, you're talking about like lattice, you mentioned.
No, just there's a finished piece that's vertical before the roof, so, and I'm.
Fascia?
Some type of fascia piece,
So that the rafters aren't exposed, you mean, from the
Exactly.
outside, you mean?
yes.
Okay.
Also looking at the roof, if there's different kinds of standing seam, if it's a true standing seam versus if it's a kind that is more just an interlocking one, which is, again, it's the difference between what would be on a Victorian house or an Italianate house versus what's on our.
Okay. So again, it's a closed seam. It's a more
So the standing seam is more what you would see in this neighborhood.
a standing seam.
Yep, and that's one of the options. They have metal roofing and they say legacy.
Yeah.
And then they also have standing seam. Standing seam would be more what you would see on a building.
Okay. And I had, to be honest, I don't know which one I've got on here. I just thought it was one roof, one metal roof or shingles.
They have shingles and two different
Type
types
of
of
metal,
metal,
yeah.
in multiple colors for each.
Right. Yeah. And I just had black, and I don't know, to be honest with you, which one we had selected, but standing seam is the more appropriate, I guess. But okay. But what about these brackets? The way that it's attached.
Yeah, I don't see those as being appropriate.
Yeah, I don't know how else to.
Well, I don't build these, right? So, that's.
I mean, if they're more decorative rafter tails, again, it's all in the details. If it's a big chunk that's like this versus if it could be almost that same profile, but if it has a curved scallop cut in it or something friendly, it's changing the character of what it's looking like.
It really is.
The rafter tail discussion we had earlier.
Yes, it's, it is the vocabulary and it is, the icing and the decoration that you put on this. Because most things it's basic structure. This is just boiled down to the basics. And I think it needs to be a little bit more refined.
Right. So the last piece I wanted to make sure we just addressed was the fence versus this. So, I still have that concern with you've got double walls. I guess I would suggest removing the back wall of whatever the structure is and using the fence as, not putting it against the fence, but, using that as your screening, so that you don't have a double wall.
Yeah, I think the issue with that was that height issue where that fence is only, whatever they have, 6 foot tall or whatever it is, versus, this privacy wall going all the way up to the top. I suppose one maybe change could be a partial privacy, just a couple of, up at the top there to get it down so that, if that would be acceptable if you understand what I'm saying.
I mean, and again, we'd have to see it. I get what you're saying. I just don't know how.
Yeah, it'd just be
all fit
shorter
together.
than the current one.
I think that kind of hit all the items, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Fence, pergola, yeah, materiality, structure, and then the only thing is the concrete material. So what about the material of the slab itself? Is there any concern with the material and being concrete or the patio extents?
Given what you already have there, I wish there was more materiality, not concrete.
Meaning what? Like,
Paver, brick.
well, then I gotta put the posts in the ground, so it scraps the.
Well, you still have footers.
Yeah, you still could have.
Making concrete block
Yeah.
footers to put it on that are just like, what, 4x4 or something? And
Yeah.
then,
So you would be able to do a concrete foundation that would just be able to say a pier, right? That would, that would land each one of those posts. And then you would be able to, recess that slightly.
And then
be able to kiss up against it with your materiality of.
oh, and then put pavers on top of this thing.
Yes.
Yeah, but, so then, so I have pavers, as you can see, that are old, that are on the rest of the thing, so I have to go try to rebuy those same pavers to make it match, or it would look, I think, kind of strange.
Gotcha.
So I would push back on that idea.
The other
Oh,
thing
there's
to keep in
existing
mind,
pavers in the yard.
That's right, yeah.
I got you.
with the
So-
concrete slab, if you're putting it right on the concrete slab and it's not thickened, it could, depending on the weight of this, because I mean, 8x8 posts aren't light.
Right, yeah, that's
They-
why they say,
That concrete.
You mentioned.
yeah, we're gonna reinforce underneath in the corners.
Right, so you're still gonna, the footing that the piers are sitting on is still gonna need to be isolated. It's not one continuous piece of concrete, it's gonna be isolated pieces.
And I disagree with, I think, a specific border of pavers and then new pavers look just as fine with old pavers. It's just like a rug in another room versus a rug next to an old rug versus. I mean, I think that's the beauty of that backyard. You don't need to do all new pavers all around. You just need to have a nice clean edge on the old, and then the new sits next to it.
The pool surround or coping that's concrete,
Yes.
so there is concrete. I
think you
If,
just
if
need
if
to,
it were finished nicely, I'm not opposed to the concrete there, especially when you think of the entire composition of, you do have pavers and you have a section of concrete, but I do agree, some pavers would be nice in that area, something that gives a little bit more, but I think looking at the totality, the concrete is not out of question in my mind.
Yeah.
I think part of it, you need to take the time to develop your site plan. Exactly where is this going? How's this
Well,
concrete gonna interact with the concrete around the pool versus the existing pavers? What plantings are around it?
Well, I thought I did.
Simple, there's a lot of moving parts back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I did have it done. I'm not doing any plantings, so it's just and the way that concrete was going to go was going to wrap around the existing concrete that I have and mesh up flat against it, which is the best I can do.
So how is it gonna interact with the edge of the pavers then?
It'd just be a flat line, So when I pulled a couple of pavers out, but I will put those back in, and then you might have to chop them to make them a straight line against.
So I guess where does that straight line align with the edge of the existing concrete that wraps around the pool?
Yeah, so
Where is that aligned exactly?
It's right, so you can look on the sizing of it, so it's just basically the size of this pavilion, and there's an overhang on the roof, so it's just a little bit bigger than the pavilion. So, but to answer your question, I mean, if you look at not kind of that one, but yeah, okay, so you see that corner there? So essentially about there is right. So the concrete would, surround that, and then the straight line would start essentially right where that first paver is right there.
So is the pier going to be sitting on that existing concrete?
That would have to sit on there.
Can I interrupt? So this is why we need a site plan.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here describing a site plan between each other, so.
Yeah.
The previous application does show, I think, maybe what you're kind of describing there. It is an awkward situation, and I think it draws attention to the fact that it needs to be resolved somehow, but it's not just simple, as simple as concrete versus paver, it's how it all is interacting with existing.
Yeah, there you go. That right. So that is pretty much the size. That is the size that we're doing right now. It just doesn't have that bump. That's just a square, so that existing, that little other piece doesn't exist.
So site plan, so something like this,
Yeah,
with
showing
the
exactly where the
application.
posts go.
In lieu of the photograph. The photograph was helpful, big picture.
Yeah.
But you can see that there's a lot of details related to, how some of these materials come together. So the black and white drawing kind of zoomed in a little bit more, I think just kind of helps define some of those.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what the team is responding to.
Yeah, I was just trying not to hire an architect.
No, it's.
You don't need to architect, you just need to sit down with a pad of graph paper.
Yeah, I mean, you could start basically with what you got here.
Okay.
Mark it up.
And mark it up, yeah.
Yeah.
And think about if that pier is sitting on that existing concrete, that may cause a long-term problem.
Yeah, we talked about it's a 4-foot thick, or 4-inch thick pad currently, which is what they said is what we could work with. So the other 3 would be reinforced and that would be on top of it. The other idea was to potentially dig underneath that existing one and try to shove some concrete under it to reinforce it.
Makes sense. Okay, so is there anything else you think you need from us today that would help you with your?
No, I mean, I think that I'm not going to be able to work with these people, so I'm going to try to get my money back. And I'm going to have to hire a completely different group of people to try to build what we're talking about here because this is what this is. And it's not going to fly. So I guess the answer is no. So I think I probably just, my yard is held hostage right now because the fence had fallen over. I thought that'd be the opportunity because we need elbow room to build this thing now. Now I think I probably would just scrap this whole idea and put the fence back up and scrape up that gravel and try to plant grass again. So,
Gotcha.
So I don't know if I should, continue this or because I can't make these guys do what you're asking. I got this one design.
Makes sense.
And it is what it is. So I got the wrong people.
Gotcha.
So I guess, I don't know if it'd be worth me continuing just to try to get.
Well, in this case, since it's conceptual, we don't really have to continue from that perspective. I think I would suggest, and I could probably fill it a little bit from Kimberly, is if the fence, and there will be new work. Right, so
Yeah.
even in this haste of trying to get the yard enclosed,
Yeah.
Whatever that fence is, whatever the design of that fence.
Well, there's it's the same, it's the fence that I have. So, I mean, it just kind of fell over. So normally I just put it back up and tack it back together.
Got it.
There is an application.
And I did, yeah.
Additional photos, which I have not received.
Yeah, I kept emailing, I kept getting rejected. I tried to send them again today.
So if it's a large file, it will reject it. Send it to either as a zip file or something with a Dropbox. And make sure it's like a public. We can receive those.
Okay. Yeah, I tried to send it from my work email, which has pretty big, but it rejected it a couple of times and I thought it was going through, but it takes a while to send it back. But so I guess the issue is like for me, I just got to get my backyard back because it's been this fence is gone. I have a pool. My daughter asks every day about the pool. I got to open this thing. So and it's horrible. So I got to. I guess
make it by Memorial Day.
Yeah, right. I'd like to. I usually open it and it would be open right now usually.
So, but I think that obviously that would be, the work for the existing fence, however you need to work with that. I just didn't want you to get a situation where you'd be back in here because you're putting up new work.
Right. So I guess I'm asking for that. I mean, if I send the photos, I mean, I'm not changing anything about the fence.
I cannot confirm until I have received a complete application.
Okay, so I submitted the application, but not the photos.
Yeah, I need the photos to be.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't want to put it, it's extremely expensive to put in a whole new fence. So I already have the fence. I even saved the pieces that fell over. It rotted. So I got to put in
Understand.
the same thing I got.
You got it.
So
So that would be a separate application. So
yeah, I've already done that.
steps and-
So will I have to come back or can I just fix this thing?
Typically fence replacements or staff approvals, and that's what we were looking at when I was asking for.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would call it a replacement. I'm just putting the thing back.
Repair, but yeah, it would still be.
Just through repair.
So it doesn't do that, but I don't have to come down and, okay, so it's
Not
down.
unless you're gonna throw me a really odd curveball.
No, I mean, it's just the same fence, because I mean, it needs to look the same as the whole rest of the thing. So that's, what we're doing, but, it's like, okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Yeah, if I do call this guy, I'm trying to get my money back. I don't know how that's gonna go, but if I do want to keep going with it, then I would have to come back to the next meeting and, have these, changes made if that's possible.
Drawings of everything. It's like
For these guys, yeah.
And just as a quick note, if you wanna come back for the June meeting, you have a week from today to submit new materials, and if not, we can look at like in July or August.
Oh, so like the design changes we're talking about, I would only have a week to get done. Oh. Yeah, this is just gonna take too long.
So I gotta get my pool back. I gotta get the thing open. So
You got
I guess that's it.
Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we do have old business items.
Okay.
So, the first one is an update to the bylaw.
I just thought something, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but number 3, do we need to do anything with number 3? Let's talk about that.
That,
Okay.
Why is that? I thought that was,
They weren't here.
you weren't here.
oh, but why would they eat? I thought it was just they had to pick between the windows.
So it was still, it's an agreement with Victorian date, so that is something I want on the record. And the window that they had is not on the approved list.
Yeah, and
I had thought it was.
And I thought we were gonna add that window, so they had, that association had 2 options. Isn't that what we talked about in our business meeting?
So we have, but we can't add that window to the approved windows list. And since it's not on the approved windows list, and since that agreement is part of a larger kind of area, I don't feel comfortable staff approving it. So it was something I wanted on the record. And I think they're.
Formally that they're coming in, the association wants to have another option, we're okay with it, and we vote on it.
Yeah, well, the other option also isn't on the approved list.
That's right.
So, which was another
I
cap.
think that everyone was, I think the only thing is, everyone was open to looking at and evaluating another window for this property. The hope was that one could be on the approved windows list, and then that would establish those 2 options for the
Right.
property. Right, I think that's what was talked about. Yeah, so neither one of you are wrong, that's what I'm saying.
Don't try to be the peacemaker here.
I'm being serious,
But I thought, I didn't realize that this, I thought this was, I didn't realize that this was an oddball window that. So it would be something that we were totally introducing to small
Yeah.
windows we already have.
Yes,
That's right.
and that's why it needs to be
Okay.
part of the larger
I
discussion.
got it.
Perfect, awesome. Is there a motion to continue?
Motion to continue VV 23 05 006, 60 West Lincoln Street.
Second. Thank you, Reed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Let's continue.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sorry about that.
It's okay, thank you for
Very
remembering.
different windows.
Hey, that was all down. Now you can, I'm sorry. here.
That's okay, new business. I'm kind of trying to fly through because I know by the time we get through the last week, everyone's typically ready to go. So we do have a bylaw update, and I'll give you kind of the abbreviated version since we've all been sitting here for so long. But I am tasked with updating all of the historic commission bylaws, kind of combining them and making sure that they are kind of optimal for us. So one of the things that we are planning to roll out now is an update to the quorum language. Because a number of the different commissions have different quorum languages as well as different requirements, and we want everything to be consistent. So Victorian's current language in the bylaws regarding quorum is a quorum shall consist of 51% of the non-vacant commission memberships for any meeting. The proposed updated language is consistent with Columbus City Code section 3119.07. The commission shall take official action only by a majority of the members voting on the question on the table during a public meeting at which there is a quorum. Quorum exists when a majority of the members appointed to and serving on the commission are present at the meeting. When a quorum is lacking, no business can be acted on other than to adjourn the meeting. And this is just supposed to be the first reading, so if anybody has any questions, comments, I can address them.
It's a functional change.
No,
Right.
no, we're just making sure
It's just clear.
It's just clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Sold.
That was.
All right, we'll vote on it next, vote on them.
There you go. How about that?
Easy peasy.
What's next?
So there's parking benefits, committee, I'm probably missing a word or two. We were supposed to have an update from Commissioner Dodson, but he's not here. So I'm going to actually move this to next month when hopefully he is here because he's volunteering on that and can give a much better summary and update of that than I could.
A short summary is fine.
Did anyone happen to hear the parking specialist on NPR talking about parking and the history of parking? in
That we
Lynn?
have too much and really what we need is less.
Yes, yes. And the whole.
I don't know if
idea-
I heard it, but I read things.
And the whole idea of, a parking situation for seniors or a parking situation for, migrants, whatever it is, would not have a car, probably will never have a car. And the allotted space for the parking has to be there. So they're providing this parking that isn't being utilized. I mean, it was really fascinating, just why code and why we do what we do and how odd it is. And it really doesn't make sense in a lot of areas.
Shopping mall is designed for one day of the year.
Yeah.
If that sometimes, at least anymore. All right, so the next order of business is the yearly officer elections. So I'm not sure how energetic we're feeling. I don't know if we want to try to wait until there is a full commission. We are, per the bylaws, we are supposed to do this every year, I believe in January. I've clearly missed it by a couple months, but I did want to put it on so we can stay consistent and kind of change things up if we need to. If everybody's okay having the same positions, that's all right too. We still would just need to do another quick vote on both positions.
Is everybody gonna be here next? Hearing by any chance when Rob's?
Or hopefully
I don't
Rob is here.
So
When is that one?
June 14th.
I won't be here. I'll be here for the hearing, but not the business meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
So I just want to talk a little bit longer term. I think that it's interesting because I think we're just sort of getting our cadence now. And like my term ends,
In 2024.
yeah, and then I'm done. I'm not doing this stuff anymore.
We will miss you greatly.
So bad. But I think what we're doing now, I think given 6 months, I think we're gonna have a little bit of a Kentucky Derby here because we have some talented people that might want to have positions. That's my thought.
Is there more than one? How many positions?
Fine with how we have things, as long as you guys are fine with
I
it.
don't choose it.
So
Yeah.
I'm okay. The issue that I had was time and consistency. And so I didn't want to be in a situation where when practices, things like that happen, activities happen in the evenings for different seasons, when it pulls me away, then I leave you guys hanging. So that was my hang
Have
up.
we supported you?
But I said, hey, if there's a possibility of a lot of team members stepping into that role and willingness to step into that role, then I didn't feel bad stepping in when I had to. So, and that seems like the team has done that. So I don't mind continuing to do this if unless someone else feels that they want to do it, and then I'm more than willing.
I think you have a very good constitution for doing this.
Okay.
Very good job at it.
You call it.
Your approach to it is, you should keep doing what you're doing, yes, and we will work to support
So
you.
would I make a motion that we continue with the
Yeah.
officers that we have?
Well, it's second, yeah, okay.
It should really be two different votes. Just for the record, for how we, doing things properly.
For chair and vice chair.
Yeah, for chair and vice chair. So we need a motion to elect Sean chair again for another year.
I motion to elect Sean as chair for another year.
Second.
That's the quickest second ever.
I have to type this stuff out.
Okay,
So,
that's funny.
okay. Pete, do you or Reed want to take the second? Because I heard you. both.
We can take it, that's sure. I'll take it on the vice chair.
It's gonna matter.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstained?
Is this year starting now, or is this the year starting?
Yes, we're starting now, because I am almost positive by the time I get around to things again, it's probably going to be a couple months late too.
Because otherwise we'd have to do it while she's gone.
Well, how
If
long
we
does
did
it take maternity leave for?
Can you do
Oh,
something?
please.
Can you do something too as well in terms of expiration? Can you just check my term?
So your term is up in 2025.
Okay.
That's-
So-
We're not going anywhere.
No, I just want to be sure. I just
Yeah.
want to be sure that it
No,
was.
most
no,
people
that-
are up in 2025, which is a little bit of a concern.
Okay.
And that's only because when city council appointed everybody, they just appointed everybody with the same year as opposed to
Staggering.
staggering.
Giving somebody 1 year.
They said mine was up, I think sooner than it was supposed to be, so I'm now 26.
Well, yours was supposed to be up this year. Yeah. And we did check and that's what the legislation said.
Okay, no, that's, I just wanted to be sure that we didn't run into an issue with that too as well, so.
I mean,
No concern.
we shouldn't run into an issue until 2025. I mean, we might run into an issue in 2024 with replacing Jeffrey, but we will worry about that then.
Knowledge that just
No doubt.
sucked out that door.
You don't have to, that's okay.
No, I'm done. I'm done.
You have to say
Yeah.
All right, before we get to the
Okay.
bottom.
Do we have a second? Get the vice chair, right? Let's do vice chair.
Motion to have Tim stay on as vice chair.
Second.
Do you want to do it?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's only happened a couple times, and I tried the hardest to model it after the word.
You really do.
Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good teamwork.
Alrighty, so all in favor? Any against? Any abstained?
Tim.
I'm not abstaining, I'm voting for myself. Another.
Yeah, so Pete gave me a good idea every time. So when I get out of here, I'm just gonna come in every meeting and fill out speakers.
Or like.
At least you'll have time to then.
Day we used to.
And then we'll-